From the talk of the town to the whisper of the village.
Count to number 4, please.
Breaking global sports news and the answers to questions you never even thought to ask.
Has anyone got a spoon for my kiwi fruit?
The two mics.
Just like in that film.
On Talk Sport.
Look at the light!
Yeah, look into the light.
Which light?
Look at any light you like.
Hey! Oh! Let's go! Hey! Oh! Let's go!
Ah, not for me, thank you. Get vertigo.
This is Talk Sport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham, and it's time to say a very good morning to Mr. Mike Porky Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Well, a good morning, Mike, but this sly little dig about, getting a real Colombo expert on, what's all that about then?
Well, it's a bit of a surprise. I don't want to say too much. I don't want to give too much away.
No. You're trying to put me down in front of the audience
not
again,
trying
as
to put you
usual.
down. No,
Yes,
not
you
at all.
are.
Not at
yes,
all.
you are. Well, I just
thought before the quiz goes ahead, which is a little bit later on in the show, we'd set the scene with somebody who's a bit of an expert on the shows. I thought you'd like it. I thought it might actually help you. I thought I was doing a good thing for you.
No, listen, it's a very good thing. I just don't like your snidey little comment about a real expert, like as though I'm not an expert on the subject that I've chosen to be an expert on, you know?
Well, I mean, I'm not
talking about the English language.
I'm
you're trying to make out that you're superior in that sort of knowledge, when, of course, you're not. And,
well, I do know how to pronunciate most words.
And, frankly, I get a bit fed up with these things, OK?
Well, it's been a long week, I know. It's been very, very stressful on you. And
Has it? Why?
Yeah,
Why?
well, because
I don't feel stressed.
You don't feel stressed? I mean, we did the extra live show on Sunday night, so obviously, we've been a bit less kind of restful as a week than it would normally be.
I find that very therapeutic. I mean, being locked up in a studio with you for long hours is intense.
Yeah, it is.
Getting
intense.
on a stage where there's a lot more space, and I can, what's the word I'm looking for? Thrive as an artiste.
Oh, is that what you do?
Thrive.
Is that what you do?
What are you laughing at?
I didn't realise you saw yourself as an artiste.
I tend to thrive as an artiste on an open stage.
Do you?
I feel that I meet my audience sort of face to face.
Yes.
Whereas, of course, when you're in a studio and you're talking to a microphone, the audience are there, and we love them.
Let's hope so.
We love them.
Yeah.
But it's a faceless audience because you can't see them.
Right.
You're not looking down a microphone.
That's what the joy of social media is, by the way.
The joy of social media.
How'd you get on with your verification process today on Twitter?
I don't think I need to discuss that with you.
Really?
Point is that...
Are you verified yet?
I'm verified.
Are you? Well,
I'm
you've got a blue
verified.
tick now, have you?
Well, I don't know where you find the blue tick.
Well, it's right next to your name. It's right next to your picture. Have you got one or have you not got one?
Well,
It should be a simple question.
Let me
Yes
have
or
a
no?
look. Let me have a look here. Where does it appear, though?
It appears next to your picture. At the very top of the page.
Yeah, so if I look at... right, here we are. Well, I should have.
Well, if I show you mine, right?
Yes.
See where it says my name? There's a little blue tick next to it. Have you got one of those or not?
Not currently, but it's going to happen.
Is it?
It's going to happen.
Well, they're obviously verifying you. So the point is that if you fail the verification test on the grounds they think a lot of your followers may be COD followers, in which case, they won't give you a blue tick.
Don't be ridiculous. The problem is I've got 2 or 3 now people who are sort of pertaining to be something about me.
What, impersonating you?
Well, not really. Mike Parry quotes,
right.
Mike Parry 9, and the Mike Parry fan club are all, very worthy people, and I'm delighted that they've taken such an interest in our show, and me in particular.
Yeah.
But it's not my official site, that's all, and I just want people to know that it's Mike Parry 8.
In particular.
Well, sorry, I was only pointing it out.
It's great, isn't it?
Why?
It's fantastic.
Why?
Well, you never miss an opportunity to convince yourself that it's all about you.
No, I didn't say that. I mean, the point is, look, some people take a particular interest in you.
Yeah.
But the people who follow me take a particular interest in me. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, I know.
Yeah,
splendid. Now, let's talk about some football, because...
Well, listen, before the football, I've got to tell you about Nightmare Journey in again tonight.
OK, all right.
A puncture.
Another puncture?
Blinking puncture.
Are you sure this guy that sold the Vauxhall Viva to you is not actually running this Mercedes garage down in Epsom?
I'm driving around currently with the yellow wording on the computer.
Yeah, so that's still there, is it?
Well, this is the point. The yellow wording says not danger, but sort of check. Check the brake pads. That's basically what it says.
Yeah.
It says warning. That's right. It says warning.
And so within 500 miles, you've been told that's what you have to do.
Well, 1,000. But
now, the guy said because of your aggressive driving, you better to do it within 500.
No, that was my interpretation, because I'm smarter than the average bear.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm halfway in tonight, on the way up from old stockbroker bells. All of a sudden, ping, like that, literally, that noise, ping, bang. I thought, what's happened?
So something else is lighting up on the dashboard?
Yeah, exactly. And it comes in red. Right. It says check all tyre pressures.
In red?
In red.
Well, see, in red, you've got to stop immediately. That's what we've heard from various people who are experts.
Well, anyway, I got out of the car. I parked it in the old Talksport Towers car park. Yeah. It is dark, unfortunately, but I looked around and I, gave it the old the grip test on the tyres, and they don't appear to be flat, so it could be a slow puncture, because that's what happened last time. What happened last time was a screw had broken in half and embedded itself in the wall of the tyre.
I think you've got to get rid of this car. I think it's jinxed.
But because it was so tightly wedged, it was a very, very slow puncture. Yeah. Isn't it amazing that a computer somewhere in that car, a sensor, can detect that I've got a very slow puncture? Well, because the tyre didn't go down.
You might say it's a slow puncture. You might go down in the morning and it will be completely flat.
I might go down in 3 hours' time and find it flat, in which case I'll have to borrow your car to get home.
Well, you can very welcome to borrow my car to get home.
How would you get home?
Unfortunately, I'll be going down to Sussex in the car this morning.
Well, you won't if I take it. Could nick your keys from your desk and take it. Anyway,
they're not on my desk, they're in my pocket.
Now then, Sterling.
Yes, Raheem Sterling, £30 million.
50 million quid.
£50 million is what Liverpool want for him. Manchester City appears to have offered 30 million or thereabouts, 25 rising to 30, whichever way you want to cut it. Steve Howie, there you just heard, former Manchester City player, says, it seems like an awful lot of money for somebody who is unproven. You think he's right?
I also heard some kind of debate going on tonight.
You're not going to answer that question, then?
Sorry?
You're not going to answer that question?
I'm answering it with a qualified response.
Really?
Yeah, qualified response. My qualified response is I heard somebody else talking and saying, now that City have put their head above the parapet and made an open and public bid for him, they'll now have to just keep up in the offer until they get him. Otherwise, their credibility will disappear. Well, they won't be able to attract, worldwide players from Europe and all that kind of stuff.
But unless they don't want to offer more than 30 million, in case it skews what they're going to offer for any other bigger players from Europe who are already much more established, that might be the situation as well. Yeah, well,
I don't know. I personally, I think Liverpool's fingers have been burnt in the past, paying too much money for players who've got into the club, like what's his name, Andy Carroll, right? And they must surely be able now to use that experience in reverse, because they know why they did that. They did that because they needed a player of that calibre. They thought of that calibre to come into the club. So they must now be saying to themselves, well, City have clearly identified Sterling as a player they need. We'll just hold on until the bid goes up too. But, I mean, if Manchester City pay £50 million for Raheem Sterling, they're guilty of what Mr Abramovich at Chelsea has been doing for a long time. That is artificially inflating the transfer spiral in the market.
But who do you think Chelsea overpaid for then?
Quite a number of players. Really? Yeah, quite a number of players.
I mean, you'd have to say that, Manchester City have been spending a lot more money over time than anybody else, really.
Yeah, I agree. To be honest, it's not so much the transfer fees, it's the wages you pay players. That's the main problem in the spiral. The main problem in the spiral is bringing in players and then paying them £140,000, £150,000 a week when they're average players. That puts up the price of every footballer in the Premier League. Yeah. And that's why when everybody says, even an average team in the Premier League will get £100 million next season, it's all relative. It's relative to what you're putting into the players' pockets. And as we all know, football clubs don't make profits from TV money. They just give it to players.
Yeah, but that's why I think this summer they're going to be spending even more money than we've seen them spend before.
Yeah, I
There's
agree.
going to be hundreds of millions of pounds spent. That's my prediction for the summer.
I think you're right. And I think the value of the players will just completely be skewed. What I'm saying is, if for instance you and I last year wanted to buy a 2-bedroom flat in somewhere like...
Why would we want to buy a 2-bedroom flat?
Well, I'm just thinking, a 2-bedroom flat somewhere like Prestatyn.
Yeah.
Right? It would probably have cost you about £55,000 or £60,000.
Is that all?
Yeah. Then suddenly, everybody decides Prestatyn is the in place, right? Nobody wants to go to Prestatyn. And this year, it will cost you £130,000. Yeah. Now, that's what's happened.
That'd be good, wouldn't it? Because then we could sell it and make an £80,000 profit.
Can you just let me give you the analogy, please? That's what happened to Raheem Sterling. Everybody's now saying he's a young English player who's terribly good at what he does. There's a shortage of them. Yeah. Because you see, what you don't understand is, Mike, which I do, are the economics of supply and demand.
What the time is, by the way, first of all?
I understand how obsessed you are with the time, and I think that it's about time you see a psychiatrist or something.
They say to fix the clocks,
by
the way.
Yeah, they fix the clocks, but unfortunately the printers in this building are still broken. That's why I wasn't able to give you a printout of the one definitive schedule that we work from each evening, which of course is the one that I put together.
Right, of course.
And which is our template for most of the show.
Yes, indeed. Okay. Have you remembered what you were going to say?
What?
Have you remembered what you were going to say?
About what?
About what you were just interrupted about.
I said to
forgotten, haven't you?
No, I haven't. I said to you that I understand the laws of supply and demand.
Yeah.
I'm a graduate of economics at A-level.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
You're not a graduate of economics at A-level.
I am.
You've just got an A-level in it.
Yeah, well, that's good
It's
enough.
not being
isn't it?
graduate, no.
It's good enough.
If you have to go to graduate, you have to go to university and carry on and pass and finish the course.
You really must be very envious of me to nitpick on every little part of my
That's
life.
exactly right. I am envious
nitpick on
of you.
every
I wish I was
little
you.
part of my life.
I wish I was you. I
Yeah.
wish I had a shirt like that as well. Anyway, look into the light for a moment.
Well, you couldn't afford a shirt like this.
How much did you pay for that?
I don't know, but I mean, that shirt you've got on tonight, I've seen that a million times before. Do you get that from a charity shop?
No, I believe it's Brooks Brothers.
I want to
actually.
talk to you about charity shops, by the way.
Yeah, okay, we'll
It's
talk
an
about
amazing.
We're out of time.
They have an amazing role in the economy now.
Yeah, I know.
They do.
But we haven't got any more time to talk about it, I'm afraid. He's Mike Parry, I'm Mike Graham. This is TalkSport. It's a nice rousing tune for you.
What is it? What's this?
It's a national anthem.
Of
Oh, would you like to have a guess?
Slovenia.
Slovenia, very
Yes,
good.
there you go. So
Well
I knew
done.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Very sort of
There's
rousing,
one-
isn't it?
There's one country in Europe that's got the same national anthem as the UK.
Really?
God Save the Queen.
Yeah, but
I
it's
think
a
it's
different-
Luxembourg, isn't
Is it? Is that right?
I think it's Luxembourg.
Well, they have a different version of the tune in America as well, with different words, don't they?
What?
God Save the Queen. They sing the same song, but they have different words for it.
Who sings it?
In America, it's like a folk song in America, but it's the same
No, I've never
tune.
heard that song
Have
in
you
America.
never heard it?
No, rubbish.
Yeah, they do,
That's
yeah.
a load of nonsense.
Yeah, no, it's not
When did you last hear that song?
Yeah. Well, when I was in
The
America.
cotton-picking fields of Alabama, they're all
Yeah.
sitting around with banjos, are they, singing God Save the Queen?
No.
Oh, yeah,
But they
yeah,
sing,
sure.
But they sing
sure,
a different
yeah,
song
yeah.
to the same tune, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I've never heard it.
Yeah, well, never mind. It's not much better than our own national anthem, it has to be said.
I like our
Now,
national anthem. I'm
yeah,
patriotic.
I think it's awful. Anyway, my point about
I think
the...
I would prefer Land of Hope and Glory.
Yeah, I think I prefer something slightly more stirring than
Yeah,
God Save
yeah,
the Queen,
yeah,
which is a real dirge.
Yeah,
But anyway,
okay.
we're not talking about that. What I want to tell you about is
Yes.
that it's International Weekend, of course. England
certainly
is
is.
live on TalkSport. But I'd have to say, if you're a Scotland fan or you're a Wales fan or you're an Ireland fan, you're going to have much more fun watching the football this weekend than if you're an England fan, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. Because A, it doesn't matter if England lose, because we're going to win the group anyway.
Yes.
B, we're not going to lose, and it's going to be a pretty dull game. I don't know if the England players are up for it, but the whole week has been stop, start, stutter. With announcements that Roy Hodgson's very angry with his players for being lacklustre in
And then the
Ireland.
story-
Therefore,
yeah.
he shook them up and said, you better get a bit more lively, boys.
But he still let them have the first 2 days off of the
Yeah,
week.
exactly.
So they
They
didn't have to train.
didn't get
And
back
then-
together
and then when
until
he went-
Wednesday.
And then when they
Yeah.
got back together on Wednesday, they all started complaining that they were being trained too hard.
Yeah, I know.
And it was all very,
Yeah.
very, very difficult for them.
Doesn't augur well.
But the Scotland game against Ireland over in Dublin is going to be very exciting. And of course, being Scottish,
Yes.
I'll be supporting Scotland. I don't know whether you'll be supporting Scotland in that one or not.
I'll be neutral in that one because I'm not Scottish and I'm not Irish.
Okay.
But it will be a better game, I agree. But more than that, it'll be a better atmosphere in the ground
Well,
because
Scotland
there's
need
so
to
much
win
more
it.
to play for.
Scotland need to win it because that could,
Yes.
they've still got an opportunity of qualifying, haven't they?
Yes.
Whereas the Republic of Ireland, you'd have to say, they were 3 points behind Poland and 2 points behind Scotland. They would really ruin Scotland's chances if they got the win, I think.
Yes, they would. They would indeed. You have to wonder why the games are played at this time of the year. I think when a football comes to the end of the season, May 31, Champions League final, I think they should then forget the football season.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no need, in my view, to literally bolt on a couple of international games at the end of the season. It's the wrong time of the year. It's the wrong attitude for the players who really are on the beach and all, and deservedly so, because they're punished for a good 42 or 43 weeks of the year now.
Yeah.
Footballers.
Well,
And
mind you,
I think it's mad to
you
play
say
it
that.
now.
No, I don't disagree with that point. However, we've already had some post-season tours. I mean, Chelsea
Yes.
have been down to the Far East. They've been down to Sydney, haven't they? Manchester City were over in America.
That's right.
So it's not right to say that they've actually already stopped playing. Because
No.
actually, they're still carrying on with commercial activity,
No,
and they'll be doing more of that in a couple of weeks' time.
I totally agree, but what I'm saying is the Republic of Ireland Scotland game is a vital game.
Yeah.
To win that means a lot.
Yeah.
When you go on these tours, they're largely holidays, they're largely drinking tours and all that kind of
They're
stuff.
not drinking tours; they're commercial tours. They're tours to sell
Well, it's
the
the same
club.
thing, same
well, no,
thing.
I don't think anybody's going drinking nowadays on tours of far-flung
Well, you're
places.
deluded. Of course they do.
No, they don't.
Of course they do.
No, absolute rubbish.
No, I'm telling you,
Football clubs are now have to be highly organised
for a team
outfits.
For a team like Chelsea, who've won the Premier League in this country, right? They regard the trip to Sydney to Australia as an extended sort of thank you break at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And remember, they're playing against teams the quality of which Chelsea have to play at 50% capacity to beat these teams 1-0 or 2-0, which is what they've been doing.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
So,
but,
so
I mean,
when I
it's one
say a
thing to
drinking
say-
tour, I am not accusing Chelsea players of getting bladderated,
Good.
24 hours a day on the tours.
I think you'd be wrong about
No,
that.
I am wrong. What I'm saying is the level of application that they would be expected to put in is nothing like as high as a Premier League game, because the manager doesn't want them to crock themselves in a meaningless end-of-season game.
No, of course not. But they are also representing their clubs, as we saw with Leicester and that terrible incident over in Thailand, right, with those young players who were in the development squad.
Well, they were drinking.
Had to get sent home. Well, yeah, but that for me is very much not the norm now, because if you're part of the Chelsea organisation, you know, Jose Mourinho, Roman Abramovich, nobody else in Chelsea wants to see that kind of horrible behaviour going on from very, very highly paid footballers. So they might have a bit of a holiday, they might lie on the beach, but they are not going on some drinking tour, which is what you suggested.
Mr. Brazil told me once that on an end-of-season tour with Ipswich, the boys all gathered at sort of Luton Airport or somewhere, you know, and they're flying to America, and that the plane was drunk dry by the time it got out of British airspace.
Was it?
Yes.
That's quite quick, isn't it?
So, that was quite a feat. But he said that was quite normal in those days. And the guy leading the drinking, by the way, was the chairman of the club.
Oh, right.
Cobbold.
Well, it was a very different time,
They used to run the brewery, you know, they used to run the brewery and,
okay.
and run the club. And, of course, if you run a brewery and you fill an airplane full of your beer, I expect that, you know, thirsty footballers at the end of the season would probably get stuck in.
A bunch of us once drank a plane dry on the way to Dubai. When we were out on a story, there was the usual sort of Fleet Street pack, and by the time we got to within about an hour or so of Dubai, they'd pretty much run out of everything except for Cointreau. Yeah,
I've been on planes like that. In fact, funnily enough, I think I've told you the story before, that I was the first person ever to go into McDonald's in Russia.
I think
Moscow.
You may have mentioned it.
Yes, that's right, off Red Square.
And you tried to use it as some kind of lure for females.
That's right, absolutely. Well, you know, I was a very important man in Moscow because I was walking around wearing a McDonald's badge, which said in Russian something like I'm a VIP or something, you know what I mean?
You sure that's what it said?
Yeah, definitely,
It didn't say cheeseburger and fries.
No.
Or ask me if you want a milkshake.
No. It said something like, you know, I am a temporary member of the Politburo or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
But the point of the story is, we went on a chartered plane from London.
Yeah.
And it was the party plane of all times. As soon as the plane got up to the required height, everybody got up. Nobody was sitting down.
Right.
And everybody was walking around, dancing to music and drinking.
Well,
and all
everybody
that.
used to do that on planes. I mean, now you're not allowed to get up and walk around in the aisles.
Oh, you're
but,
not?
I mean, everyone used to because these were new regulations that came in after 9/11. You're not now allowed. You're not allowed to stand up anymore. No. They discourage it.
I still stand up on planes.
Well, when was the last plane you were on that you stood on? So I don't think you've been anywhere for years.
Well, I must admit, I curtailed my globe-trotting.
I mean, you know how, like, on
transatlantic
flights,
yes.
and I know that you'll say, well, I always went first class or club or something like
that.
Yeah,
I always went club,
But if you were in a transatlantic flight and you were on, you know, cabin class, you would always go up to the back and generally sort of stand there and have a drink and chat to a couple of people, and then go back to your seat maybe an hour later. Well, they don't like to do that anymore.
Well, I wouldn't know about that because I haven't travelled economy for about 12 years. All I'm telling you is, the last time I was in business class, probably the last long-haul flights I went on were South Africa or something like that. And everybody gets up and walks around in business stuff.
Well, in business, that's different. Yeah, well, some places, some business sections, they've got a bar, haven't they?
No, exactly. On the old Virgin planes, And I went up to the Middle East somewhere, or what was it, Dubai or somewhere, and everybody gets up and walks around. So, you know, you're
well, cattle class, they don't like to do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But you see, when you make a statement like that and says nobody does it anymore, you are misleading our audience.
Not at all.
You think our audience...
Well, no, our audience generally doesn't travel business class or first class.
I think many of them do.
Generally speaking, actually travels in the same way that I travel because they can't afford to take their entire family business class on holiday.
Well, if they go on their own...
If they
go on their own, they can travel business class. And I think sometimes you don't pay enough heed to the quality of the listener of Talk Sport. Very, very highly rated people.
Are you suggesting that people that fly economy are lower quality than people that fly business?
No, I'm not suggesting that at all.
Thank goodness for that.
I'm not suggesting that at all.
Snobbish.
You get more people in an economy cabin than you do in a business cabin. They must be people who like, you know, sort of tube travelling and that sort of stuff, I suppose.
I wouldn't try and backpedal if I were you. William and Adam have both said it's Liechtenstein, which is the same national anthem.
Liechtenstein, I knew it was.
Yeah.
It's near Luxembourg.
Well, you didn't say that.
Well, you know, it's the same sort of country, isn't it? I.e. one that nobody's ever been to.
Yeah.
And so nobody would know.
Yeah, well...
if you see what I mean.
Have you never been to Liechtenstein?
No, I haven't been to Liechtenstein.
Liechtenstein basically is a tax haven, isn't it? It's where Robert Maxwell used to have all his companies based.
Yeah, where is it?
It's somewhere in the middle of sort of Europe.
It's on the edge of Germany, is it? Must be, because it sounds German.
It's on the sort of edge of the Swiss border, I think.
Talking about that, by the way, talking about Germany and all that, it was very interesting. You've seen that Boris Becker has now applied for citizenship in this country.
Has he?
And also wants his children to be brought up thoroughly English, you know, living in Wimbledon, speaking perfect English and all that kind of stuff.
Is his wife English?
His current wife is...
I don't think she is English, is she?
I don't think she is.
No.
I think she's probably German.
Right.
But the point is, he has become a complete Anglophile.
Yeah.
I can't understand somebody who suddenly goes and adopts another country.
Can't you?
Particularly if you're British.
Yeah.
If you're British, why would you want to be anything else? Why would you want to be anything else?
Well, because, you know,
Why?
if you go and live in another country and you like that country and you may wish to vote in that country, then you may wish to become a citizen in order to take part in that sort of process.
You know our dear friend in America, Phil Finn, God rest his soul, who recently died, sadly.
Yeah.
Did he ever... He lived there all his life from the age of about sort of 40. Did he become a US citizen?
I'm not sure if he did, actually. I'm not sure if he did.
And is his wife Anne-Marie coming back to this country
I don't
now
know.
that poor old
Why
Phil's
give it
passed
away
on?
all these names? I don't know.
Well, because I'm talking, fondly about friends, And,
well, why don't you ask her?
And the recently dear departed.
Yeah, I don't have no idea.
Because the Boris Becker situation reminds me of our friend Alan Hall, right, who has become a Teutonic, hasn't he?
Yeah, I don't know if he's become a German citizen, though.
Well, I bet he has.
Well, you bet he has, but you may be wrong.
He likes sort of going around looking at sort of war graves and all that sort of stuff, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
What are you laughing at?
Well, because we're out of time.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to get yourself into any more trouble. He's Mike Parry.
What trouble?
I'm Mike
To say
Graham.
somebody likes
because
looking
you
at
keep
war
giving away
graves.
people's names.
Well,
you keep giving out names. One of them's going to sue you one of these days.
Names are not secret.
Yeah, well, it is if you associate
not in a
them.
free society, they're
It
not.
is if you associate them with behaviour which might be considered.
What sort of behaviour? What you're telling me?
Incorrect.
Going around looking at war graves is
look into the light.
Is vandalistic behaviour.
Just look into the light. He's Mike Parry.
I don't
I'm
know
Mike
what you're
Graham.
on about
Coming up,
sometimes,
Tommy
you.
Smith is going to join us from ESPN.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The pressure's on now.
Relieve the itch. Talk sport.
Ireland, the Republic, and England. Well, they've just got another game with Slovenia, really. Let's talk to Tommy Smith over at ESPN and find out how excited he is about all this stuff. Tommy, very good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. I'm very excited, but it needs to just cool down a little bit. The temperature is still 90 degrees here. We're going through what some people call a heat wave, really hot. But,
well, we'd like to have one of those here, to be honest.
No,
Tommy.
we wouldn't. No, we wouldn't, Tommy. Honestly, it's against the natural environment of man to be boiling in 90-degree temperatures. So you're quite right to say that it's something that we do not require.
Yeah, it's something that just makes you sweat a lot, for sure.
Yeah, well, that's not good either. Sweaty people are not good people.
Yeah, well, I mean, this man is a very big snob, Tommy. I know you haven't probably spoken to Mr. Parry all that much, but he's normally used to having a very civilised conversation with me. But now you're here as well.
Yes.
You know, we'll try and keep it as civilised as possible.
Yeah, good
but isn't
idea.
it true, Tommy, that basically, if you're anything but an England fan in these aisles this weekend, it's quite an exciting weekend. But if you're an England fan, there's not much to look forward to, really.
No, there's really not. I mean, you figure England is going to win, and they're going to win the group. So what have you to look forward to except that you're going to the Euros? That's probably all you're looking forward to.
And not for very long, possibly.
Ireland has a tough weekend. It's after what Ireland and England did last weekend, it might put you off watching football altogether because I mean it was horrible.
Oh, it's dreadful. I absolutely agree. Yeah.
I can't imagine that Martin O'Neill is going to send his players out to be as cagey as they were against England, or maybe even as they were against Scotland when they played in Scotland. I think he's got to have a go. Otherwise, he's going to hear it from the fans. I really do.
I totally agree with you, Tommy. You know, the biggest problem with international football, and nobody's solved this problem yet, is that when an international manager gets the players together, they're not his players anyway, they're on loan from clubs, obviously, and he's got to instill into them a way of playing which could be alien to 80% of the squad because their club managers tell them to play in a different way. So trying to invent a form of football in a few days, it just doesn't work when you've got such disparate groups of international players like Ireland, where they come from so many different divisions.
Yeah, and I mean, you basically have to say to the players, okay, I trust you, go out there and do what you can do. I mean, I don't think, I perfectly agree with you. You can't instill a way of playing, and you can't, it's very difficult to put in a kind of systems that you're going to use in such a short time. But O'Neill's had a few weeks with them now. I mean, he's had a closed-door game against Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
He played 2 different 11s. He had that game against England, which the only thing it was good for was that it was better than a training session. So, I mean, he should be fit to, should be fit to tell them, hey, go out there, you got to go for it. This thing of holding back, a draw is no good to Ireland. I don't think a draw is any good to Ireland because Germany and Poland are going to be 1 and 2 in that group, and it's a case of is it going to be Scotland or is it going to be Ireland that's going to be in the 3rd spot. That's the way I read it.
Yeah,
but if Scotland
totally
could get
agree.
3 points here, don't you think they can maybe nick something and get and maybe get into the top 2 because they've been playing pretty well.
Only if Poland sort of melt down a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but Scotland didn't play well against Ireland the last day. I mean, Ireland made a terrible mistake allowing Sean Maloney that opportunity to score. I mean, Ireland should have got a draw in the game against Scotland. I mean, they really should have got a game. It was foolishness on the back line. So, I'm hoping that it won't be that kind of carry on this coming Saturday.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It puts into question, doesn't it, the future of international football, Tommy, when you see groups like the England group where there's literally one very strong team, England, and then the other 5 teams just don't matter, to be honest. And I'm not being rude or unkind to these clubs, but because, Michel Platini wanted to make this a more important competition, he allowed more clubs to enter, but that weakened the competitiveness of all the games. Nobody in this country cares one hoot about any of these qualifying games that England are involved in.
Yeah, it's almost like the way things are now, you have close to 50% qualification. I mean, so what? 50% go out and 50% go on.
That's
I mean,
right.
there's no incentive in it really at all. I mean, there's nothing in it for the fans, is there?
No.
I mean, you could sit down at the beginning of this competition and you would mark out the teams that were going through. There was some certainties going through.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. A lot of it's a pointless exercise just to raise a bit of TV money.
Well, when you read this headline in The Independent, where it's from Joe Hart saying winning is more crucial than entertaining the nation, it just makes your heart sink, doesn't it?
Well, not really. I agree with that. I think you win at all costs is not a bad philosophy in football, but you don't need that attitude in a group where you are overwhelmingly the superior team to 5
I wasn't actually asking you
average
the question.
nations.
I was asking Tommy the question.
Yeah,
I was helping Tommy to answer it.
I know most people will tell you, hey, if you want entertainment, you go to the London Palladium. But no, I do agree with that. That, if you're in a group that you're cleaning up, the group's over as far as England's concerned. Go out and put on a show for the people. I mean, look at the money that's been charged into these games. I mean, these games are not cheap. These games are not cheap, like 70, 75 euros. That is not cheap for a game of football, so you need to get something out of it.
And what about Wales and Northern Ireland's chances? Northern Ireland have been a bit of a surprise package. They're playing Romania, the other team at the top of the table, and Wales-Belgium could be a great game, couldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Northern Ireland were really brilliant the other day. They drew 1-1 with Qatar. That tells you all you need to know about them.
Well, yeah, at least I think they didn't want to do anything wrong in case, Qatar came back with something. But what about Wales and Gareth Bale and all the rest of it? It'd be great to see them in the finals at least.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, it would be because, the one man that I always felt that missed out on so many things was Ryan Giggs. And, don't tell me Gareth Bale is going to be the same thing. But you have to feel that Wales are going well at the moment. And, I'm not sure that Gareth Bale's going so well. He didn't go so well towards the end of the season with Real Madrid. But maybe this might be a chance just to get him going again. But it's just so ludicrous, isn't it? All these games coming up right at the end of the season. And all these teams, Manchester City ended up playing in England on a Sunday, and on Tuesday night I think they were playing against Toronto in Toronto. I mean, is there no end to the greed that these people have that's running football? Do these lads not deserve a bit of a break? Do they not deserve a summer? It's going to come down to that football is going to be just like an ordinary job. Oh, if you get 10 years in, you get 2 weeks holidays. If you don't have the 10 years in, you only get 1 week's holidays. Yeah. That's what it's coming down to.
Yeah. It really is. You're absolutely right. It really is. Tommy, thanks
Tommy.
very much indeed.
There is no end to the greed, but that's not the footballer's fault. When you're brought up on a diet of excessive wages, all you want is more.
Yeah, well, that's the trouble.
All you want is more. And when you get to the Ronaldo and the Messi class, it is no longer a financial consideration.
No.
Your indication of who the world's number one player is by who gets the biggest pay packet.
Well, that's it. And as soon as one goes up, you need to get
that's right,
But that's what I think Liverpool and Raheem Sterling is all about as well, because clearly, what's happened is that, Liverpool are going to say to themselves, well, we're not going to get rid of him for 30 million.
That's true.
And Manchester City are saying, but we don't want to pay more than 30 million because otherwise we have to pay everybody else more.
Do you know what else is going to happen this summer?
What?
I'm predicting this now, and you heard it here first, okay? And this is a philosophy that nobody else has touched upon yet on TalkSport, because I've got the insight into it.
Well, this is what we like to hear.
I've got the insight into it.
We like to hear Porky's kind of unique insight.
Apart from about 3 clubs, and that will be Manchester City, Chelsea and Manchester United, every other club will be engaged in the summer in loan deals, not transfers. Because the spiral of cost to buy and sell players now is so enormous... And my club fell for it last season, paying £28 million for Romelu Lukaku, which was a valuation placed on him by the spiralling cost of average footballers.
Well, you think they should have kept him on loan?
I do. Honest to God, I do.
But was that their decision, though? Was it not Chelsea who was saying, you have to buy him?
I think Chelsea said you've got to buy him now, and I think Everton were forced into a corner, and if they had to stand by the proclamations of the manager about how great Lukaku was, then it was a question of put up or shut up, put your money where your mouth is, and they fell into that. But I'm telling you, Mike, this summer will be dominated by very high-profile loans. Yeah. And I mean, I'm talking about players who you would imagine, would go off to stellar European clubs. Yeah. I mean, for instance, the Falcao deal at Manchester United. Yeah. Was that the most expensive loan deal in the history?
That was a very expensive loan deal. They've decided now not to, by the looks of it, buy him. So
exactly.
He's going
off to another club. But what I'm saying is that set the marker for the way that clubs can plug the gap temporarily and also find out whether that player, who might have cost them £50 million, was actually meant for the club, still writing off £6 or £7 million on a loan season.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating.
That's what's going to happen. Believe me, you heard it here first. I talk to people inside the game.
Yeah, I know you do.
Okay?
I know.
And that's why I know this is going to happen.
Inside your head as well, but that's not the point. What? That's not what we're talking about. We've got loads more to come.
I don't deserve these sort of insults from you.
You told me before you hear voices in your head. What's wrong with me?
I've never said I hear voices in my head.
You came in one night and said all you hear is voices in your head.
I've never said that.
Yes, you have.
I have not, you fool. You're trying to brand me like some sort of lunatic. What I'm saying is that I've come across a philosophy that the loan deals are going to be the most important aspect of transfer dealing in the summer.
Right. What are you so excited about?
Because you didn't know about it, you're trying to dismiss it now as the ramblings of some half-baked lunatic.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, in that case, you are not being true to our listeners.
I am.
You know that I've come up with a theory that you didn't know about, which you couldn't possibly think about. Who do you speak to inside the game who knows anything about football?
It's hardly brilliant.
When did you last speak to a football agent?
I'll tell you in a minute.
You didn't speak to a football agent in your life.
I'll tell you in a moment.
If you walked down the street and stepped over a football agent, you wouldn't know it was a football agent.
I wouldn't want to step over a football agent. This is Talk Sport. He's Mike Parry. I'm Mike Graham. Loads more coming up. This is Talk Sport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. He's Mike Parry. There is a quiz coming up, of course, the Porky quiz every Thursday night. It's going to be on Columbo. I've just come across a very funny video which has just appeared on Two Mics TV. I'm just going to tweet it out on the Two Mics account.
Good idea.
It's just looking ahead to our show there up on the 27th.
Is there a link to it?
More of that. I'm just going to send it out now. So follow at the Two Mics and you'll see it there. Now, that was a song about alcohol because there's apparently a bit of a wine war about to hit the supermarkets because some of the tabloids this morning are all wrapped up in various supermarket sort of sales.
It's a wraparound, just to explain to our listeners what that means.
Well, I didn't want to say that I wrap around because they might not know what it meant.
Well, I'm just explaining to them. So you've got the ordinary paper and then they make another spreadsheet and they wrap it around the paper and it's just an advert which you can either throw away if you want, which will cause horrendous litter problems tomorrow morning all over Britain.
It will.
Or, if you like looking at an advert, you can read it and see that there is in fact an offer on a bottle of wine which old MG here said to me a few minutes ago, the mother of my children loves that wine.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Look how cheap it is.
Yeah, it's £7. Yeah, which is normally retails around about a tenner.
But you see,
I sort of bulk at paying. Yeah. So normally when it comes down to about sort of £6.50, I normally buy a few.
Yeah, but you see, I'm sorry, you've got an inverted sense of value about wines. Well, you pay £70 for a cheap bottle of champagne.
No, I do not pay £70 for a cheap bottle of champagne. Absolute rubbish.
Yes, you do.
I'll tell you what happened to me the other night. Actually, in fact, last Friday.
I thought you did pay £70 for a bottle of champagne. Recently.
Yeah, but it wasn't a cheap bottle of champagne. It was a bottle of Bollinger, which sells for £45.
No, the problem
is not a cheap bottle of champagne. You can buy a cheap bottle of champagne for £20, right? Yeah. You can even buy one in a sale for £15.
But you go to places where they bung £50 on the minute they see you walk through the door.
Not true, no.
Yes, they do.
On the odd occasion, when I go to a bar and I fancy a bottle of champagne, then I buy one. I do not very often do that, okay?
We bought one at that place near the Belfast, HMS Belfast, a few weeks ago when we were there.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, £27.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah. And I go to a place sometimes with my daughter, which is not far from there, where they have a happy hour. It's £25. It just so happens, it depends on how I feel. I'm a spontaneous kind of guy, okay? If I'm with somebody and I fancy a bottle of champagne and I fancy a bottle of expensive champagne, then I buy one. There's nothing wrong with that.
Self-indulgence.
But I'll tell you what I did the other night. Well, the other night, last Friday, I went to meet a friend of mine who I hadn't seen before the party, right?
Oh, right.
And that was around the back of Borough Market.
So that's why you'd have to be standing around for hours.
No, I told you I had a prior engagement. I had to see somebody that I hadn't seen for a long time.
More important than socialising with me.
Well, not more important than... I told you I'd be there at 7:30, 7:45, which is the time I got there.
No, you didn't. You told me you'd be there 6:15.
Well, I did not say 6:15. Anyway, I don't know what
I've still got the text.
Anyway, I don't know.
The text at 4:45 says I'll be with you in 90 minutes.
Show me.
I will show you if I can find it.
Yeah, if you can find it.
I will be there in 90 minutes. That meant 6:15.
No, I don't think so.
But you didn't turn up till 8 o'clock.
No, I don't think so. I got there at 7:45 and
dismissive behaviour.
You'd already sulked off because you couldn't find anyone that wanted to talk to you. That's not my problem. I went to this bar, right, and I went up and I said, have you got any champagne? And they said, oh, yes, we've got a special on Tattinger today.
Right.
And I went, oh, great, how much is that? And do you know what they said?
No.
£160.
Oh, right, great.
And I was like, are you kidding me?
Brilliant.
I said, that's the special.
Yeah, but you see, you're the sort of bloke, once you big it up and you walk in your pinstripe suit and say, right, what have you got in champagne?
Yeah.
And they say, oh, special. Oh, yeah, I'll have that. How much? 160, you won't back down then.
No, I didn't.
No,
I did back
you
down.
will pay it.
No, I did not buy that.
You will, because what you do is then you hide behind plastic.
You're not listening to what I'm saying. I didn't buy it.
I don't believe you.
Well, you may not believe me.
I don't believe
instead,
you. So what? Yeah, go on.
Instead, I got a bottle of Mums, which was one of their cheaper ones, but very expensive, 65 quid for a bottle of Mums, which I thought was a bit over the top, but I got it anyway because it was a celebration, okay?
So you couldn't lower yourself to buying a bottle of Prosecco?
Well, I probably should have bought a bottle of Prosecco in the end. Because
I've just told you. I've just told you.
Yeah.
You couldn't. Were you with a female person?
I was, yeah.
Yeah, well, you see, you've got to big yourself up in front of females. Yes, you have.
No, she then bought the other bottle because I go out with women who can afford to buy champagne. I don't go out with secretaries who go, oh, aren't you terribly impressive, Michael, because you bought me a bottle of champagne? Yeah, but I go out with people who are of equal value.
Yeah, Mike, there may be equal value in terms of their standing in life, but because you're not attractive to women anymore, and that's been for quite a few years, by the way, quite a few years.
That's what you say.
You've got to big yourself up now by appearing to be Flash, the big guy. You know, the man, with the golden plastic.
No, I was always Flash.
Hey, talking about the man with the golden plastic. We're going to talk later on about the man with the golden gun.
Christopher Lee, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Poor
by the
guy's
way,
dead.
I've got something to say to you about that. Because, I mean, you come in here and you make out that you're sort of God's gift to kindness, right? Yeah. And you spend all day kind of insulting me on Twitter, right? Because you sent out a tweet, did you not, earlier on your unverified account, which said... Scaramanga had 3 nipples. Old MG's got 3 bellies.
I thought it was quite funny, actually.
Yeah, well, I didn't think it was funny at all. To which I responded, well, you'll be getting 3 out of 10 as usual on the Columbo quiz.
Oh, we'll see about that, mate.
Yeah.
Expert.
Anyway, tell us about what you've discovered about this wine war.
Right, well, listen here. First of all, wine is so interesting, right? Now then, the best bottle of Chardonnay in this country... Where do you think you'd buy it?
Where would you buy the best bottle of Chardonnay in this country? Well, I mean, there are so many great places to buy wine.
Okay, let me tell you. Marks and Spencer's.
Okay.
Chardonnay made by Marks and Spencer's.
Why are you giving them a free advert?
Because I'm telling you some fact. I'm telling you some information, stuff that you don't get hold of. You dream your way through life. I'm telling you fact. Chardonnay made by Marks and Spencer's is named the best in the world in the under £15 category. It's received an award, right?
Yeah.
It's a Macon Village.
Macon Village.
Village. And it's made in 2014.
Yeah.
So that's the bouquet, 2014. And it costs 10 quid. How about that?
Yeah, well, that sounds good. Macon Village shouldn't cost more than 10 quid, really.
It's made from vines which are 30 years old.
Is it not made from grapes?
Well, the grapes grow on the vines, you idiot.
Well, it's not made
why
from the vines,
are you being so pernickety tonight? What's wrong with you?
I'm trying to be accurate,
it's not,
as you say.
It's because your empty head is more empty than usual.
No, not at all.
Right, now, let me tell you something. They grow these vines in the limestone soils of the southern Burgundian area of Macon.
Yeah, they do, yeah. That's why it's called Macon Village. Has this come as any great surprise? I mean, you've been drinking wine for about 40 years, right?
Yeah.
Why have you never heard of Macon Village? It's one of the nice wines that you can get as a white, sort of a fairly white, crisp, kind of, cold...
I thought this was a Chardonnay. How can it be a Macon as well? You can't have a Macon and a Chardonnay from the same area.
Well, if it's a Burgundy, it can be a Chardonnay. Yeah, it can be.
Well, how can it be a Macon as well?
Well, it can.
Anyway, they've got a choice of 35 wines.
Yeah.
And they competed for this title, right, against 16,000 different wines around the world. How about that?
Yeah, very good.
And they won an international trophy in the Decanter World Wine Awards. I think this is brilliant stuff.
But you're never going to buy wine for that kind of money because you've always told me that you prefer to pay a £5 for it.
Yes, I do, yeah.
So, I mean, you won't be nipping down to your local M&S and saying, give me a crate of that
£10
Macon Village, man.
No, you have to have a philosophy with wine. And this is the philosophy, OK?
Yeah.
When I'm entertaining with wine, I always have 2 bottles of Chateauneuf-du-Pape, if it's red, OK?
Yeah.
Which is great.
It's all right.
Or the other one is Beaune. That's the red.
Beaune is nice.
Or the other one is Fleury.
And how much do you pay for a decent bottle of Beaune in a restaurant?
Well, in a restaurant, I don't know, because I never order it in a restaurant. It's too expensive. Huh. So if I go down...
So what do you drink in a restaurant, then?
Oh, something like... one of these Australian things, you know what I mean? What's it called? Mirage? What's it called?
I don't know.
Virage, is it?
I've no idea.
What's it called?
Well, I don't know.
This
red... a type of grape? A Merlot?
Merlot, that's right. Yeah,
Merlot.
Well, that sort of stuff, you know what I mean?
That's the stuff they drink on the park benches outside.
No, they don't, no. So listen to my philosophy. Yeah. So if you get somebody around your house, right, you buy 2 bottles of Chateauneuf-du-Pape, or Beaune, or the other one I just mentioned, Fleury, right? And
Fleury's a little light for me, I must say.
well, I like light wine. So you serve that to start off with in beautiful crystal cut glasses, okay? And then...
When was the last time you had somebody round for one of these wine nights?
Oh, probably quite recently, down on the coast there. Down on the coast,
Really?
And a few neighbours, sort of...
Oh, yeah, the policeman's down there, isn't he?
Yeah, the
Has
policeman's
the policeman been over for some bone?
By the way, do you know, in 2017, I could rent the balcony out on my apartment down there
Why?
for £2,000 or £3,000 for an hour.
For what? What's going to be happening?
The new aircraft carrier is going to pull into Portsmouth Harbour.
No, is it?
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't want a load of
That's-
strangers traipsing in and out of your flat, though, would you?
Well, I will, because what I'd do is I'd put down that plastic carpet stuff, you know what I mean?
Right.
From the door
so they
to the
wouldn't
balcony.
be able to actually use any of the facilities to stand on the balcony?
No, absolutely not. No, stand on the balcony and that's it.
Why don't you just get one of those cherry pickers, you can lift them up and put them on the balcony and they can watch it and then you lift them back down again?
I'm not going to react to your stupidity. So what I'm saying is, so you give your guests a really nice wine, the first glass and a half.
So you start with red, do you?
Well, if it is red, it might be white. I do the same thing with white.
Yeah.
If it was white, I'd get a Chablis or something like that,
okay, right.
But then once they've had a mouthful, because I know about human physiology, the palate then is stung with the grape. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So then you serve them rubbish for the rest of the afternoon.
Right.
Complete cheap plonk.
Well, you don't wait for them to get drunk before you
No,
start giving them rubbish.
they don't need to get drunk. The palate's already gone after one glass of good wine.
But surely they would taste the difference after they tasted the first glass.
No. Most people who claim to be connoisseurs of wine are just idiots whose taste buds and palates are
snobs.
Well, yeah, they're just snobs.
Yeah.
They're just snobs.
Yeah,
I'm
there
telling
is
you.
some truth to that.
And in fact, I have actually done this in the past.
Yeah.
I've bought the Chateauneuf du Pape, but I've put it in separate decanters for me alone.
Yeah.
And then I filled the Chateauneuf. No, I do.
This comes as no surprise.
I've filled the Chateauneuf du Pape bottle with Beaujolais, right? Costing about £3.50 from Aldi's or something like that.
Yeah.
And I serve that to my guests, and they don't know the difference.
Yeah. Well, maybe that
so
says
why,
more about...
why waste decent wine on people who are, as you quite rightly said, just snobs?
But maybe that says more about your friends than it does about the actual quality of the wine.
Well, they're not my friends.
They're not your friends?
No, not friends.
Well,
no.
so, why? On what occasions do you have these people round?
Well, for instance, in all the places I live, I'm usually a bigwig on the local, what do you call it?
Steering committee?
Yeah, the steering committee. That's exactly it.
Well,
The
you mean
residence
of the
committee.
building?
The residence committee, that's right, because I understand more about these things, you know, and the way things work. So I'm always sought out by these people to stand at the front of the queue and lead them. And when I do, I invite them round to my place for two reasons, really. Firstly, to endorse my credentials as the leader of men by, flashing a few expensive sort of ornaments around, that kind of stuff, so they know who I really am.
Yeah.
And
let me just read you this
and a
from
signed
Matt.
picture of me and the Prime Minister and that kind of stuff,
People, you get them all out, dust them all down.
I do.
Matt says this, sometimes, I don't know why he says sometimes, Porky comes across as being an absolutely massive snob that looks down his nose at everybody else around him.
Right. Do I?
Well, I think you do.
When have I done that? When have I done that? Then?
I don't think sometimes. I think all the time.
When have I done that this evening?
Well, you've done it this evening when you referred to our listeners as being kind of, somewhat lower quality because they had to go steerage on a plane.
I certainly did not. You put words in my mouth all the time, and you put me up against the listeners sometimes in a way which I absolutely resent, I'm telling you. Yeah. Absolutely resent it. I mean, I've said to you for years and years and years, there's nothing wrong with buying wine at Tesco's or Marks and Spencer's, and all you do is come hit back and say, oh, you can't get decent wine in those places. I go to my vintners, or I go to bars where they sell mums for £160.
No, that's not true. It wasn't mums, it was Tattinger, actually. Yeah, the mums were 65. Here's one from Becky, who says, I'm sure M&S don't make their own wine. Surely they have specialist wine buyers that source the best value wines across the world.
Whatever. They mix the wines, don't they? They mix the grapes and all that kind of stuff.
Well, no, they just buy it off people. And Sam says this, it's Shiraz, not bloody Mirage or
Shiraz,
Virage.
that's right, Shiraz.
It's a grape and a place in Iran.
It is Shiraz. In Iran?
Yeah, Virage is a place in Iran, apparently.
Oh, is it? Sorry, I thought you meant Shiraz came from Iran. I didn't know Iran were doing wine, but of course they're not. Of course they're not. Shiraz comes from Australia, doesn't it?
Well, Shiraz can come from many different places.
Not really. It comes from New Zealand and Australia mostly. They're known as New World wines, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. I like Chilean red.
Yeah, do you?
It's my favourite red.
Yeah, what's your favourite?
In the world. What?
What type? You can get Shiraz from Chile, you know.
Yeah, my chili and red... Yeah, hang on, no.
This is a new thing for you. This
No.
This is stumbling, bumbling over stuff.
No, I
Columbo-esque.
I quite often get perplexed by your ridiculous questions and
Well, you mean you can't answer them?
No, I sometimes have to work out what exactly you're asking me, and then my brain is like a piano. A set of piano keys. I have to make sure that my thinking pattern is in the right order.
Keys, except not without any sharp keys. This is the problem with you. Anyway, we've got loads more coming up in the next hour.
Well, we won't talk about sharp tools then, will we? Because you ain't the sharpest tool in the toolbox, pal.
Coming up in the next hour, you'll like this, right? We've got a woman who is a doctor, and she's a human...
What's wrong with that?
She's a human...
What's wrong with a woman being a doctor?
Well, there's nothing wrong with it.
No, you just said it as though it's something unusual.
Well, I know it's unusual for you.
No.
You think all women should be secretaries.
Oh, rubbish. What a load of nonsense.
She's a human origins research
My housekeeper's
scientist.
a woman.
Is she?
Yeah.
She's not a doctor, though, is she?
Well, if she was, she wouldn't be a housekeeper, would she, you oaf? What's an idiot?
Just look into the light for a moment. We've got this woman coming up anyway.
I
who's
don't know
at the
why I
Smithsonian.
do this. I
don't know why I
subject
do
myself to this.
I'm going to go for a lie down. This is Talk Sport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. He's Mike Parry, of course. Got a lot of tweets here. Bill says, I hope when you go to Newcastle, Porky, you get served Lambrini, bloody snob. And then Wallaby...
Why do people call me a snob?
Well, because you are a snob.
I'm not. I'm a man of the people. I've just demonstrated my economy drive over wine, and so I can't win. If I say I'm on economy drive over wine, people call me mean. If I say, well, I serve everybody Chateauneuf de Pape all night long, they call me a snob. I can't win.
Well, James says Parry doesn't even taste his wine. He was slamming it back at the Portsmouth show. Surprised you didn't eat the bottle too. What do you make of that?
That's very harsh indeed. You can't see what I'm doing on the stage from where you are in the crowd.
Well,
so
you're under the lights, surely.
Well, it's a bit harsh.
Yeah, Marty says Shiraz is a beautiful city in central Iran, although it's not connected to the wine.
Oh, really? Why is it called Shiraz then?
Well, I don't know. It's not named after wine.
Well,
it's
that's a bit odd.
named after
Do you know what I was
something
going to say to you? You know that wine is such a big business now. I keep getting circulars from people who offer me a free consultation and valuation of my wine cellar.
Yeah, but you haven't got a wine cellar, have you?
Well, I might
You don't
have.
keep wine long enough to have a cellar.
No.
Plus, you live in a flat, so why would you have a cellar?
Well, you idiot. The wine cellar.
You idiot?
A wine cellar is an expression for your wine collection.
No, it isn't.
Doesn't mean you've got a cellar.
Yes, no, I'm afraid it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yes,
no,
I'm afraid it does.
No, it doesn't.
You've either got a wine cellar or you haven't.
No.
You can collect a few bottles of wine in a wine rack if you want, but that's not a cellar.
I've got wine racks all over my properties.
Have you?
And I tell you what.
I bet you haven't got any wine in them, though.
Oh, I have. And I tell you
have
what.
Have you collected some wine at any time?
Well, do you know the element that indicates how valuable your wine cellar is, right, even in your apartment, is the amount of dust on the bottles.
Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. I haven't touched some of them for 8 years.
Really?
Yeah, 8 years.
I find that staggeringly unbelievable.
No, it's true.
I don't believe that you've had a bottle of wine in your house that you haven't drunk for 8 years.
No, I'm telling you, there is. Yeah, definitely. And there's all these companies now send me all this stuff saying you want us to come round and value your wine cellar, and another one which offers...
Well, why don't you get them round and see if we can all have a good laugh?
What would you be laughing at?
Well, because you haven't got a clue about what to do with wine. You wouldn't be buying expensive wine. You would not have any expensive wine. All you buy is the cheap plonk that you like drinking. The fact that you haven't drunk it for 8 years must mean you don't like it.
Is your belittlement of me finished?
No, but carry on.
Because the other one is I get these portfolio people sending me all sorts of information and advice about investing in these companies that buy and sell wine.
Yeah, but why would you do that?
5 or 10% profits on every deal.
Yeah, see, I'm not a big believer in that. I mean, I buy wine to drink. I don't buy wine to make an investment, you know.
By the way,
I think that's ridiculous. Sorry to interrupt you with my monologue.
No, it's okay.
No, I can see you doing it again, by the way. Oh, you just want to move on again, don't you?
No, well,
You've had enough of talking about wine.
No. When I'm in the flow of what I'm talking about...
We've got a lot of wine in a locked room, by the way.
No, there is no locked room, and I will just keep saying that because I don't wish to perpetuate this stupid myth. The same people, right, who keep sending me stuff saying, why don't you invest in wine and deal in wine and all that, have sent me... last year, about this time, I said to you, I lined up a special Christmas present for my sister, which was going to be a beehive.
Yeah,
that's right, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was the same company. Right. Guess what I'm going to get my sister this year?
What? Are you sure you want to give it away?
Yeah, because she won't be listening to this now.
Listen to the podcast. Listen to the podcast.
Yeah, listen to the podcast sometimes, but it doesn't matter because I need to tell her about it because you have to make arrangements to give it to her. Oh, there's the old siren. Yeah.
Yeah, well, now she knows to look away now if she doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's right. I'm gonna buy her a red telephone box for her back garden.
A red telephone box?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Because I think it'd be great to have a red telephone box in her back garden.
Why? What would she do with it?
It's a piece of British heritage.
Yeah.
And what you have to do is you take it on a lorry, and the lorry's got a crane. You have to lift it over the house into the... So the
presumably you have to put it on something stable. You have to build a base for it or something.
Yeah, you have to build like a concrete plinth.
A concrete base.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But the telephone box itself only costs about £3,000.
Right.
But getting
you say
it there,
only costs about £3,000. See, so most people, that's a lot of money.
Well, it's a lot of money to me as well, but, because I'm close to my family and all that, I think it's worth the investment.
Has it got a phone in it?
No, of course not. Well, don't be ridiculous. Of course, I've got a phone in it. Why would
you give somebody a phone box without a phone in it?
Because I've told you it's a piece of British heritage. Tom Jones has got one in his back garden in California.
Oh, right. Well, you better get one for your sister then, because she's just like Tom Jones.
Well, she's not the only one. I think that pop star, what's his name? The guy from Electric Light Orchestra.
Oh, Jeff Lynne.
Jeff Lynne, I think he's got one.
Has he?
Yeah, it's a trendy thing to have.
Why don't you give her one with the phone, but with the line cut, like you used to do with the pliers when you were
I'm not going into that. I'm not going into that. What you do with these is you make them into plant pot things. You put plants in them.
Right.
And, it shelters them from the rain and all that kind of stuff.
Well, sort of like a red greenhouse.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that sort of thing.
I mean, because the problem with phone boxes, in my memory of phone boxes, and I don't want to wish to be too graphic here, was that you would sometimes step into a phone box and it had a rather awful pong inside because people had sometimes used them to, relieve themselves.
Oh, I've never come across a phone box where people have used as a urination receptacle. No, definitely not, no. I mean, that's all a myth and all that. But anyway, these have been cleaned out thoroughly and bleached and repainted and all that kind of stuff. So no, none of that.
They might not even be authentic. They might be just somebody making them and ripping them off.
No, they're definitely authentic.
There's not many of them left around the streets, are there?
It costs about, did I tell you about £5,000 to get into
£3,000,
place?
you said?
Yeah, but it costs about £5,000 then to get into place.
So another £5,000?
Yeah, for the lorry and the crane and all that kind of stuff.
£8,000.
It could be that much.
For a thing to put flowers in.
But it'll be the last great present for her, you know what I mean?
There's a bar on the Lower East Side of New York, around on, I think it was on 2nd Avenue, down around about 13th Street, where they've got about 4 old English phone boxes outside the bar,
I don't remember that. How long's that been there?
I don't know, but it was there the last couple of times I've been there.
Yeah, but not since the 80s when we first started going there, because otherwise we'd have come across it. But anyway, there we are. That's what I was going to tell you about. Now, listen, I've come across something really funny.
Yeah.
You know, the head of communications at FIFA until, I think, like 10 days ago, was that chap, Mr. De Gregorio.
Until yesterday, when he resigned.
I thought he resigned a week ago.
Well, I think he resigned yesterday after this rather off-colour joke that he made.
I
thought it was quite funny.
I was going to tell the joke.
Yeah, tell the joke.
Have our listeners heard it?
Well, they may
very,
have done.
very funny. I won't say specifically who he said was in the car, but a group of senior FIFA people in a car. Who's the driver?
Yeah.
He said, a policeman.
Right. Well, he included himself, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
He included himself as one of the 3 people. I think he
Exactly.
included the chief executive and somebody else.
Yeah, I thought it was very funny.
Right.
But it shows he's got a sense of humour. He's either got a sense of humour or that is gallows humour, isn't it?
But the thing that I found most odious about it, typical of everything to do with FIFA, was that whether he's been fired or whether he resigned is not very clear.
Yep.
FIFA say that it's got nothing to do with the joke, which I don't believe.
Yes.
But he's going to stay on in a consultancy mode until the end of the year. They don't seem to actually believe in firing people at FIFA. What they do is they just say, well, you have to disappear for a while, but don't worry, we'll keep paying you.
Yeah.
And you can continue picking up the filthy lucre
Yeah.
and claim to be a consultant.
It's absolutely true.
Yeah.
What is the link we've just put out and what's it for?
The link we've just put out is for a video that we made just a day or so ago.
Yes.
Where we're promoting the show in Manchester.
Right, Salford Keys.
Because it's in Manchester, it's on the 27th. Obviously, we had a sort of Oasis theme. So
right, okay.
we would urge people to go and look at it. You can look at it on 2 Mics TV, you can look at it on our website, or you can look at it just on Twitter, which I've just
When you say we made a
Mics.
video, I mean, what we did was a little clip of a bit of a laugh having a sing-song, wasn't it?
Well, we made a video, yeah.
Did
it's
we
a
make
video, isn't it?
Yeah, but when you say made a video, the audience might get the impression we had a crew of 30,
Oh, right.
With sound and
Why would they think
cameras and
that?
all that. Well, they might just think that... that
Well, it's not Duran. It's the 2 Mics we're talking about.
It is the 2 Mics.
Yeah.
I'd say it's a little clip of us having a bit of fun.
Yeah.
I'd say a little clip of us having a bit of fun. It's on 2 Mics TV,
Right.
and the link is actually... We're going to tweet out the link. Have you tweeted out the link?
I've already done it.
I'll retweet it.
Can you not find it? Now that you've started following the 2 Mics finally.
I'll find it, don't you worry. Right, okay.
You'll be glad to know
Yes.
that there's an Australian Twitter account called damnfinewine.com.au who've just started following me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wonder why they want to follow you.
Yeah, well, because they obviously realise that I know a little bit about wine, and you don't.
I think not. Now then, what I was going to say to you was, I'm going to be delighted to talk to our very, very fine film critic a bit later on in the show.
Mr. Hearn.
About Christopher Lee.
Yes.
Now, you said that I made a joke about Christopher Lee, the Scaramanga and all that kind of stuff. But you see, to me, and we'll get more into this when we speak to John later, to me, Christopher Lee was Vampire Man.
Yeah.
Now, how many people would say that of the modern generation?
Yeah, because Bela Lugosi was probably too long ago for most people to remember. He was really the first sort of film vampire, wasn't he? Bela Lugosi.
Bela Lugosi, I've never heard of him.
You've never heard of Bela Lugosi?
No, before Christopher Lee, it was the other guy. He was the other guy who played Frankenstein.
Peter Cushing.
No, I don't think it was.
Peter Cushing
Squarehead.
played Dr. Frankenstein.
Dr. Frank, yeah, perhaps he did. Perhaps you're right.
Well, Christopher Lee played Frankenstein's monster as well.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. Do you know much about Christopher Lee, do you?
I do. I thought he was great because do you know the best film I ever saw him in? And I'll talk to John about this when he comes on. John will know this film. It was called The Devil Rides Out.
Yes, I remember that.
I mean, it was incredible. Do you remember the arrival of the Angel of Death that burst into the room on the back of a white charger horse?
Not
it
specifically.
frightened me to death.
A white charger horse?
Yeah, frightened me to death.
Isn't it a white charger?
A white charger, yeah, but it's
a
a
white
horse.
charger horse.
Yeah, but it is a horse. You know what I mean? You know. What
It's
else
either
could
a white
it be?
horse or a white charger.
Yeah, well,
anyway,
it's both, isn't
he's
it?
Mike Parry, I'm Mike Graham. We are the two Mikes. We will be talking about Christopher Lee and much else coming up. This is TalkSport Extra Time. We are the two Mikes. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on, of course. Have you ever been to Cuba, Mr. Parry?
No, but
Not during your time as you were kind of, being sort of, shall we say, feted by the Russians.
No, I haven't. And but a mate of mine, right, who sort of, was a Fleet Street guy like us, John Jenks, actually.
Yeah.
He retired and he wanted to go somewhere like the Caribbean, but couldn't afford it. Yeah. Seriously, because he was on a pension then. So he went to Cuba instead because it was very, very cheap.
Yeah.
Everything there is cheap.
Yeah.
The booze is cheap. They have all these old 1950s cars and all that kind of stuff. The accommodation, the holidays cheap, all that kind of stuff. He said it was brilliant, but incredible poverty in parts of the island, and for that reason, huge black market, lots of vice, obviously, that's how people make money, and not a terribly pleasant community.
Lots of people I know who have been there, and I haven't, have said it was a great place to go on holiday, and we're going to speak in a moment to Giovanni Savarese, who is the manager of the New York Cosmos, or the coach, I should say, of the New York Cosmos. They just played a historic game, because you know how Barack Obama's just kind of lifted diplomatic relations.
And I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Break down barriers between East and West and all that.
So the New York Cosmos, who are still going, but not quite in the same way as they were back in the 70s, went down and played a game there. So we're going to talk to him about that. Let me just read you out this from Luke, who's tweeted this at the two Mikes. Just a look on YouTube at Mike Porky Parry singing the Oasis song. And Mr. Parry, you should be #1 in the charts.
Thank you very much indeed.
That's very nice of him, isn't it?
Yeah, I hope many others will have a look at it because, it is an artistic effort to replicate the sound of Manchester, where we're going in a couple of weeks. Yeah. And we hope we'll see you all there.
All right, well, let's talk about Cuba. Let's talk about the New York Cosmos. Giovanni, very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, guys.
Now, the New York Cosmos for a lot of people is a memory, really. When Pelé and Franz Beckenbauer and lots of English football stars went and played there, Rodney Marsh as well. Obviously now it's a slightly different kettle of fish, if you like. But you took the team to Cuba. Tell us about that.
Definitely. First of all, we have, as you mentioned, a huge history because of the past, the great players that participated in our club. And we're rebuilding the club again, one step at a time. We have players like Marco Senas, Raul as well, and so we're going for 1 year at a time. But this experience about traveling to Cuba was tremendous for us. First, we feel privileged, to represent the United States after so many years. No professional team have traveled to Cuba in about 15 years. And that it was soccer, actually, the sport, or the event that got the chance to be able to be played there. Was historical. It was amazing to see how much the sport of soccer has grown in Cuba as well.
Yeah. Now, Giovanni, was this purely a football trip to go and play a football match on an island in the Caribbean, or was there a secondary motive here, and that is to improve relations between the United States and Cuba?
Yeah, no, I think it was, for several reasons we travel. Of course, it was because of the relationship and the history of our club that made possible for us to be able to travel, to be there, to unite people, to, something that the Cosmos has done in the past. Mm-hmm. This was our 42nd country that we traveled, so, the Cosmos has the history of going to these kind of situations and try to unite the people. But Good. As well, it is something that only the New York Cosmos is able to do, and I think this also was a move to show where we are at the moment, that we're also trying to do great things. And I think globally, people, they got to see what we did. But
I mean, I don't know how much the situation's changed, but if you'd have spotted a player on the other side who was very, very good, are restrictions now so relaxed? You could have said to the boy, look, come back to New York and do 2 or 3 weeks training with us or something.
It would be great if that was possible. Just that simple. It's not that simple, but what I can tell you is that it is something that could definitely happen in the near future.
In the future,
think,
very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
And what sort of reaction did you get from the fans? Because obviously, both of us lived in the States for quite a while, and Cuba is very much associated with baseball. They get a lot of baseball players coming to play in the major leagues and boxing as well. I mean, what were the facilities like where you played, and what kind of money is there available for say a Cuban national football team to emerge?
Yeah, no, it was for us, interesting to see and understand what goes on out there. So the first thing that we noticed is that the sport of soccer has grown tremendously. There's a big interest of the Cuban to play soccer. A lot of kids are playing in the street. They know about Real Madrid, Barcelona, the English teams. Everybody's very knowledgeable about the sport, as now they can watch it. What was amazing as well was, in our match, was the fact that they sang the national anthem. Everybody clapped. Everybody knew it. There was such a great energy in the stadium. Yeah. It was really a festival for us.
Yeah, and Giovanni, did you see within society in Cuba, are they shaking off now the yoke of communism? Are they prepared to sort of move into the new world, the world of opportunity? Are you noticing, for instance, when Russia got rid of communism, the first thing you noticed were billboards all over the place. It went from being black and white into technicolor. Is that happening in Cuba?
Listen, it was definitely an experience. We could see many moments and many different situations. We could sense the past, as you were saying before. You see the 1950 cars, which are beautiful, but it looks sometimes like you're living in the past. The people are very friendly. They have a strong identity. Sure. You see some of the things from the past, but you see as well now that it has changed a little bit. There's an opening, at the moment, and I think it was quite interesting to be able to be there and get to see what we saw.
And have you got any plans to come over to the UK, Giovanni?
We were there 2 years ago to do a pre-season in the Charter House near London.
Oh, yeah, Charter House,
hopefully, hopefully soon we can travel again, with our team to play, hopefully, a match.
Mm-hmm. Well, that would be brilliant. We'd love to see you over here. Giovanni, thank you very much indeed. I didn't want to interrupt some of the things you were saying there, but you were mispronouncing his name, I'm afraid.
Giovanni?
It's not Giovanni, it's Giovanni.
Okay, it doesn't matter.
Of course it matters.
It doesn't matter, don't we? Honestly, you're so pernickety. There's something wrong with you tonight. You picked me up on everything.
There's nothing wrong
with
me.
And I think it's an inferiority complex coming out. I think you realise now...
No, there's only one person in this room with an inferiority complex, and it's not
me. No,
okay?
I think you realise where the force lies, to use an expression from Star Wars.
The force is not with you.
Yeah, the force, I think it is. Now, listen, talking about Cuba, it's very, very interesting, right?
Yeah, go on.
Because...
you don't miss a trick, though, do you, to try and, have a go at the yoke of communism. This is the same country. This is the same country that you were praising to the high heavens a couple of weeks ago. You were saying, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if Russia was able to manage to launch and hold the World Cup because Russia's a fantastic country and Vladimir Putin's a great leader."
Well, hang on. Russia's not a communist country anymore. Has that passed you by?
Sure?
Of course, I'm sure.
Right.
Of course, I'm sure. Has that passed you by? Do you not realise the Berlin Wall came down a long time ago? And Russia,
still a communist country, trust me.
It's not a communist country.
They've just spread the wealth slightly more.
If anything, it's completely the opposite now. It's almost a sort of I'm not going to call it
free for all.
It's I tell you what, I think communism.
Well, it's hardly a market-driven economy, is it?
Well, I think communism has been replaced by a lot of organised quote business, if you see what I mean.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
I think that's right.
But talking about Cuba, Cuba's a fascinating country.
Yeah.
First of all, the women are the most beautiful in the world.
Are they?
You know
I thought you'd never been there.
No, I haven't been
Well,
there.
how do you know that?
Well, you've seen Cuban women in America like I have. They're all beautiful.
Well, they're not all beautiful.
I mean, isn't J-Lo Cuban?
That's not, pardon?
J-Lo's Cuban.
J-Lo's from the Bronx.
Is she? Well, who's Cuban? There's some great singers, Cuban.
Well, tell me
Cuban
who you're thinking of.
I thought I was... Oh, Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey.
I don't think she's Cuban either.
I think she is.
No, I don't think so.
But anyway, look, what I was going to tell you about was, if Cuba... What are you laughing at?
Mariah Carey's Cuban.
Listen, what I was going to say to you was this. You see, because you've never studied the history of the Caribbean, like I have, I could tell you all about what went on in the Batista-ruled Cuba.
Can you?
Batista was the ruler there, and he was a dictator for years and years, and that's when...
Are you basing this on movies you've seen, or are you basing it on some real historical facts?
I'm basing it on historical
facts.
Really?
Okay.
On
Not Godfather 2 or anything.
No, on books that I've read. Okay,
like what books?
Sorry?
What books?
The History of Cuba.
The History of Cuba?
Yeah. Why do you find this amusing?
Because I'm sure there's no book called The History of Cuba.
Well, I've read about the history of Cuba.
In a book called The History of Cuba?
Well, I think it was, yeah.
In pictures?
No, not in pictures at all. What I was going to say to
Chapter
you
1,
was...
The women of Cuba are the most beautiful in the world. Chapter 2.
Okay. Well, Batista ran, I thought, a solid country.
Did he?
Now, it was a bit of a dictatorship, and he did lock a few people up.
He did, yeah.
But not nearly as many as Castro's locked up over the years. Fidel Castro, but he's not the ruler anymore.
No,
Raul Castro's now the leader.
Yeah.
And Che Guevara, by the way, that was all a myth. Che Guevara wasn't, this sort of this bearded bloke with a beard. Bearded bloke with a beret.
Yeah.
Running round liberating people all over South America.
Wasn't he?
He was.
Have you seen the Motorcycle Diaries?
No, what's
It's a great film. That it's all about how he drove on his motorcycle through South America.
Well, he was a communist dictator. He wanted to.
No, he wasn't a communist dictator.
He
was
did.
a guerrilla.
No, he was a communist. He wanted to enslave people. That's what communism is. Communism is about enslaving people, right?
No, I don't think he wanted to enslave
when Castro took over in Cuba,
he wanted to free them. Actually,
they enslaved the people. The people were free under Batista, but under Fidel Castro for years. I mean, some people did 35 years in jail before being released recently. And why? Because they didn't like Fidel Castro. And jail conditions in Cuba are not good. It's not like Holloway Prison on the Holloway Road in North London.
No, that's true.
It's more like a medieval prison. It's a terrible experience, and it's a shame really because Cuba's such a lovely island. We have told the story before, haven't we, about our mate who went to Cuba to take pictures of Arthur Scargill.
Yeah, that's right.
But he'd spent so long. It was Mickey Brennan, the
don't
photographer.
say his name.
But he'd spent so long out of London, he didn't know what Arthur Scargill looked like, so he took a picture of some bloke who turned out to be the driver of the train that they were standing on the back of to make the political address.
It was a bit unfortunate, but thank you for pointing it out.
The Cuban driver of the train, by the way.
Now, coming up, we're going to talk about Christopher Lee, and also Dr. Briana Pobiner is going to be here from the Smithsonian National Museum in Washington. She's going to be talking to us about the origin of the species, chimps that drink, and all that kind of stuff. You should enjoy it, because it will be some well-needed facts for your research.
Excellent.
This is TalkSport.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
A terrific performance.
Turn of pace and eye for goal.
Shout about it.
Talk Sport.
If you feel like a wreck, try a horse's neck or a sherry with a cherry in the new finer size. If you don't name your...
A slightly little-known side of Christopher Lee, that's quite a good singer by all accounts. I don't know whether you're paying attention, Mr. Parry.
Of course I was paying attention. I pay attention to everything in this studio.
All right, good.
To make sure that you don't mess everything up.
OK, well, fortunately, we haven't messed anything up, because John Hearn is here, our resident film guru, is going to tell us about the career on film of Christopher Lee. The thing I found fascinating when I was listening to some of the obits yesterday on TV was that his first acting role wasn't until he was well into his late 50s.
Really?
He became a star when he was later in life.
Yeah.
His first acting role was in his mid-20s.
It must have been, because I remember him as Vampire Man from my youth.
His big break
that was when he was a lot older, though.
Yeah, that's when he became really well known. His big break was with the Hammer films. The Curse of Frankenstein, 1957 was his first one. He didn't actually have any lines in that.
Right.
And,
what was he like? Just a body or something?
He was a monster.
Oh, he's the monster.
And
he used to walk around,
pretty much.
I told you that earlier. I told you he was the monster earlier.
He played monsters in pretty much everything he did, and that was when he first became successful and well known. He ended up doing a whole bunch of Hammer horror films with Peter Cushing, who became his lifelong closest friend.
Right.
But before that, in his mid-20s, he was working with studios doing little bit parts. He was actually in Olivier's Hamlet in 1948, but he had
in London?
No, in the film version.
Oh, sorry.
And an uncredited role as a spear carrier. So it was one of his very first roles. But he's actually probably the most prolific screen actor ever. His list of credits is sort of 280 or so films and TV series that he was in. And that's vastly in excess of most people. Even the most successful actors tend to do no more than about 120.
Were they kind of low budget films, these Hammer horror things?
The Hammer ones were pretty low budget.
Yeah.
A lot of what he did was rubbish, and he admits that. Or he admitted that. But he said he never really took anything on merit. He just did it because he had to pay the rent sometimes and feed his family. So he just went and did anything.
Yeah, amazing. What sort of a bloke was he off screen then?
He was very different to his on-screen persona. I mean, he was just a very tall guy, but lovely guy, very gentle, loved singing, loved heavy metal.
Really?
That was his favourite. His favourite band was an Italian heavy metal band called Rhapsody, and he used to go and see them quite a lot in concert.
Yeah.
His actual dream in life was to be an opera singer. He was a very, very good singer. And much better than that clip that we just played. I chose that because it was quite funny. But he was a very, very good singer, particularly when he was younger. And he really wanted to be an opera singer, but ended up being an actor instead.
But also he got out of all of those Hammer horror films, which were very kind of camp and great fun to watch when I was a kid.
Fantastic,
But he was in Star Wars as well. He of course worked with the Lord of the Rings guys as well.
I wanted to ask you, as far as I'm concerned, his greatest film that I ever saw was Wicker Man. Now, how did that come about? Was it he was something to do with the creation of that, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was part of that with Edward Woodward. He was he was very much instrumental in getting that film made. And you're right. That was probably his finest role, I think.
I mean, the twist in the plot of Wicker Man was that every time you thought Edward Woodward had nailed the investigation for the missing child, there was a new twist in the plot, and it was Christopher Lee who turned out to be the Baron on the island, who was manipulating everything all around the island, wasn't he?
He was the Machiavellian character. Yeah, it's based sort of very loosely on true accounts, and it was drawn together by lots of tales and folklore of things that happened up in the north of Scotland. And
I thought you said your favourite film of his was The Devil Rides Out.
Oh well, that was another great film. Did you see that one, John?
I haven't actually, no.
Well, what happens there is he has to
it's a pretty awful film.
Well, he has to protect people from the devil, literally.
Right.
And it ends up with them all in this great country house, and he's drawn, the magic circle that nobody can get in with the
pentacle.
The pentacle, that's it, yeah. With all these lighted sort of urns to keep the devil out. And then there's this incredible clattering noise, and it's a horse comes bursting through the doors, and the angel of death is on the horse. It's an amazingly dramatic film.
Yeah.
Amazingly dramatic.
And he did To the Devil a Daughter, which I remember as well, because in the 70s, when you were growing up as a kid, one of the things about all these Hammer horror films was that it was quite frequent for women to take their tops off, which was quite exciting for a schoolboy at the time. But
that was one of his prolific periods. The 60s and 70s is when he did most of his... he did more work.
I remember a film I took a girl to see when I was about 17, and it was called Dracula 1972, as though it was the most modern film ever made. And it started off by, sort of something that happened in the 1800s, and then it switched on. And to illustrate how modern this film was, they showed a Trident jet taking off at Heathrow, you know what I mean? It was that sort of thing. But
I saw a guy, funnily enough, who's now the head of Hammer at the moment, saying that he realised around about that time that The Exorcist had just been made and The Omen had just been made, and he had to kind of get out of pretending to be this figure called Dracula because movies were kind of moving on. But he was in Gremlins 2, he was in quite a lot of comedy stuff as well.
He did a lot of comedy. He did one of the Police Academy films, bizarrely. Yeah, he did a very broad church of work, and he was in all of he was in a couple of the Lord of the Rings films, the Hobbit films. He shot all of his scenes for Star Wars Part 3, I think, or 4, whichever. No, 3 he was in. He shot all of those scenes in one day. And he did, actually, in his later life, he did a lot of his films just in green screen at Pinewood Studios. He was too ill to travel to New Zealand to do the Hobbit films, so he just did them in green screen.
I think Porky knows what green screen is.
Of course I do.
What is it then?
What you do is you go into a room where there's a green wall behind you, and you're not aware of what they put on that screen. Once you've done your bit, you work the action around it, don't you?
Yeah, and they put the action on behind.
I mean, for instance, if you wanted to do a football report from Wembley Stadium, you'd go into a green screen, wouldn't you? And they'd just flash Wembley Stadium up behind you.
Is that what you used to do?
Yeah, sorry?
Is that what you used to do?
I have done that on many occasions, yes. Yeah.
The good old days.
Why are you laughing?
Because you were always pretending to be somewhere you actually weren't.
No. You tried to catch me out again and say you don't know what a green screen is. I've just told you what it is.
Never mind that.
Man's an idiot, John.
Now, we should also talk about Ron Moody, who died yesterday as well.
Absolutely.
Who
Fiddler on the Roof.
Famous for his part as Fagin in Oliver.
Fagin.
He was quite a versatile character as well.
Well, this tends to happen that you get two people who in the same profession who die sort of close to each other, and one is far more famous than the other one, and so the other one gets sort of almost washed over. But very few people have been talking about Ron Moody. Just everybody's talking about Christopher Lee. And again, he was a great character actor and could play a diverse number of characters, and you get movie stars and you get movie actors, and movie stars tend to play themselves over and over again, and great movie actors can play a whole range of different characters,
right?
And they would certainly both of those could play different characters, even though Christopher Lee's synonymous with playing the bad guy and the monsters and things. But he played a broad spectrum of those types of characters.
Sure. What's the future now for horror films? I mean, I haven't seen a new Dracula film for years, decades maybe.
There hasn't been there was a TV version of Dracula with Mark Warren about 5 years ago, but there hasn't been a
But now they have these
film
kind of
it for a
fantasy
while.
movies,
So
don't they?
these
Like that
vampire
one that
films.
Well,
we
not
keep
straight
watching
Dracula,
with like Kate
no.
Beckinsale and all these creatures that come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the vampire films. There are a lot of vampire films around. Unfortunately, Twilight saga has been the worst of them. But there hasn't been any sort of straight Dracula kind
That's
of
what
movies.
I mean.
But
stake through the heart
yeah.
stuff. I mean, we haven't seen that for decades, have we?
No, but that still it's sort of a staple of the the vampire movies.
Is it? Right,
that
okay,
kind of
yeah.
idea. But they've sort of progressed on from from just being about Dracula, because that's a bit kind of old hat now.
Yeah. But it'll come back, won't it? Because every
undoubtedly.
great genre of film is remade, isn't it? Eventually.
Undoubtedly, there'll be another Dracula
Genre.
film within 5 years or 10 years, almost certainly.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Maybe you
Great.
maybe you could be in it.
Why?
Well, you could play a part. You could be like
What
Igor.
part would
or
I
something.
play?
You play Igor.
Igor.
I would say.
Yeah.
The hunchback assistant.
She thinks that's funny. Yeah. Am I laughing?
Here's one from
Am I
Simon
laughing?
in Sheffield. Simon in Sheffield says Christopher Lee, my favourite of his was Hound of the Baskervilles with Peter Cushing. Which is quite nice. And here's one from Duncan in Leicester who says, bloody hell, Porky, what are you on tonight? Gloria Estefan is who you were thinking of.
That's exactly what I was
Gloria
thinking
Estefan
of. Yeah.
from Cuba.
Yeah. I thought Maria Carey was Cuban
No,
as well.
she's
but
not.
anyway. Yeah.
No, she's from New York.
Is she? Okay.
Anyway, thanks very much indeed.
Okay,
John,
that's
thank
great.
you.
All right, John, thank you very much indeed.
Christopher Lee, I'm sure, with a bit of luck, they'll be playing a load of Christopher Lee movies over the weekend, I suppose.
I hope so. They're all good
watch.
fun, aren't they?
Yeah.
Great.
And what did you make of Scaramanga as a Bond villain then? Because we haven't really heard your take on that.
Do you know what? I thought I'm glad John's in the studio. I thought the start of The Man with the Golden Gun was the most ridiculous Bond opener I've ever seen. I love the Bond openers, the ones, the opening to Goldfinger and Thunderball and Live and Let Die and all that. But the idea of this, professional hitman coming from America to play games in a mirrored room with Scaramanga while the midget butler walked around, with bottles, it was ludicrous to me. Ludicrous.
They did go through a phase of being a little bit absurd. The Bond
they
films.
did. Yeah.
Just after sort of Ian Fleming died, he was very kind of controlling on the early Bond films, and then when he died, they sort of. It gave them a little bit of freedom to go over
with the literature,
and certainly when they got into the Roger Moore era, they were being a little bit silly and they got a little bit camp. And
the most stupid one was Moonraker when they invented the first space shuttle and were docking in space, and Jaws suddenly changed sides and started
fell in love with a Girl Scout.
Exactly, ludicrous. Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
But anyway, there we are.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, so you have to stop ranting on about Moonraker now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But anyway, looking to John,
Space
thanks very much indeed. We've got much more going on. Coming up, we're going to talk to Dr. Briana Pobiner, human origins research scientist at the Smithsonian.
What about?
And we'll get from her. Well, we're going to find out from her why it is that chimps like to drink alcohol.
That's great.
Whether or not they like to cook stone-baked pizza. And, of course, why, the big question, people are getting fatter in this world.
Well, that's
what
obvious.
we're going to be asking her.
This
is Talk Sport Extra Time. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Of course, we talked about Christopher Lee. We talked about Cuba. We've talked about the international games coming up this weekend. Now, we're going to talk to a very important woman over in the Smithsonian National Museum in Washington.
Excellent.
It's Dr. Briana Pobiner, human origins research scientist, because we talk an awful lot, as you've got a great interest in
indeed
in our sort of ape brethren.
Yes.
We've been doing a story this week about chimpanzees who appear to have found a way of drinking sort of fermented
sap
from
palm trees,
which gets them drunk. We're going to ask Dr. Pobiner here why it is that they do that. Dr. Pobiner, very good morning and welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of stories that we've looked at recently here on the show, because Mr. Parry's a great student of these things.
I mean, the main one is that chimps now eat hot food. They know how to make food warm by putting it under rocks, which are then heated by the sun, Doc. And I wonder if this is a modern phenomenon, or have experts like you known about this for eons, for decades?
Well, we know that humans have been cooking back almost 1 million years ago. We have good evidence for that. But as far as how long chimpanzees have been doing it, this is pretty recent evidence and pretty recent observations. And but interestingly, the alcohol drinking chimpanzees, they've been doing observations of this for over 17 years.
Wow. Well, what's interesting to me, Dr. Pobiner, is that, as we kind of learn about evolution and as we know that man evolved say, faster and more quickly than any other species. I mean, is it the case that these chimpanzees are evolving, or are they just becoming kind of much better at doing an individual thing? I mean, is there any evidence that they're still evolving, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. I mean, all organisms, all species on the planet are still evolving, and so the question is whether this is something that is an innate capacity for chimpanzees. Like, all chimpanzees on the planet may have the capacity to do something cultural like this, and certainly the way that they're drinking the alcohol, they're making sponges or cups out of leaves. That's seen in a lot of chimpanzee populations. So that's kind of a cultural adaptation.
That's interesting. And Doc, tell me this, because we have the ability to conduct more research into the lives of chimpanzees and apes, is man, like human, Homo sapien, now becoming aware of how blinking cruel we have been to chimpanzees and apes and gorillas over a very, very long period of time? Things like, what's the name of our chimp in New York?
Oh, Tommy the chimp.
Tommy the chimp, who's incarcerated, in a concrete cage in New York and all that. I mean, when is the day going to come when we're going to finally realise that the depravity that we level on chimps and apes has got to stop?
Yeah, I mean, there are movements to give legal personhood to chimpanzees. So
Indeed.
I think that.
Indeed.
Yeah, so I think, that's a legal question. There are moral and ethical questions about, using chimpanzees for medical testing and things like that. And so I think there's a lot of things that people are really starting to think about that way, about how we're treating our closest living relatives.
But what my earlier question was really about, Doctor, was is it the case that humans are continually evolving? I mean, there are some like myself who think sometimes humans are evolving kind of backwards now.
But not over not over the lifetime of one person.
Well, no, but I mean, sometimes you do wonder about whether the human race is actually getting better or getting worse. But I mean, when you look at the whole concept of evolution, we see different species, becoming other things. We see all the time we get new species that we didn't know about. I mean, with a chimpanzee kind of DNA, I mean, does it evolve? Are they getting cleverer, I suppose, is my question.
Well, so it's a good question. So evolution's not always about getting smarter or bigger or faster. It's about being really well adapted to your environment. So sometimes that's being smaller, or sometimes that's being able to live with less food. And so there's great evidence that modern humans are evolving. There's selection pressure on things like body weight and body size and age of reproduction, and there's and certainly in the developing world, there's really strong selection pressure on being able to deal with diseases and infections and things like that, because that's a matter of life and death, and that's what life and death and reproduction is basically what evolution is all about.
Sure, and Doc, this might be a strange question, but do you think Clint Eastwood has had a lot to do with the liberation of primates? Because when he had that character Clyde, the orangutan, in those films that he made, it did show a different side to the intelligence ability of an orangutan.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that, I don't know about that specifically, but certainly I think the more we learn about orangutans and chimpanzees and gorillas, the more we realize that they have these capacities, these intelligence, and these social capacities that we didn't know.
Yeah.
Now, one final question about the human species, because we're also very conscious here of Mr. Parry's research into obesity, because he's quite often quite often appears as an obesity expert. Why is it that the human race is becoming heavier and bigger, and what's the kind of potential danger of all of that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, there's amazing research about the prevalence of obesity that really has happened over the past couple of decades, but it's over the past 100 years or so that people have been getting taller, people have been getting bigger and fatter. And so that's something that is, it's recent, and some of it has to do probably with just health and nutrition and people living longer lives and having better access to food. So that's a part of it, but I also think there's a part of it that our diets are so full of calories and sugar and fat and things that our ancestors never had that much of. And so it's really good from an evolutionary sense to be able to pack on these deal with these calories and pack on this weight, but from kind of a modern health standpoint, it doesn't work so well.
Absolutely.
No,
Doctor, thank you very much indeed.
Dr. Pobiner, thank you very much.
Dr. Briana Pobiner. Did you say she was from the Smithsonian?
She is from the Smithsonian National Museum, yeah.
Oh, have you been around the Smithsonian?
I have indeed.
I mean, when people say the Smithsonian, it's a bit like talking about the Kremlin.
Yeah, I know.
Originally, before you went to the Kremlin, people thought the Kremlin was like one building.
Right.
The Kremlin's it's a
complex,
state,
isn't it?
It's a state, and so is the Smithsonian.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, when you say a doctor from the Smithsonian who's an expert on primates and all that, that doesn't accord with the Smithsonian room that I like best, which has got the moonshot hanging from the ceiling and all that kind of stuff.
Well, they've now got, actually, out at Dulles Airport in Washington, they've got the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum as a separate museum.
Have they?
Where they've actually got an entire space shuttle there in a hangar. I mean, that's how big it is, you know.
Yeah, well, in the Smithsonian in Washington, they've got the Eagle's Landing.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's made of silver paper.
Yeah.
It's amazing to stand next to it and think that a man went to the moon in that
I know.
craft.
They've got a copy of it,
It's unbelievable.
in fact, in the Science Museum in London. You can do the same. It's not the original one, but it looks exactly like it.
But it is literally made of silver paper to reflect the rays from the sun to stop the astronauts getting cancer and all that kind of stuff.
Getting burned alive.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Now, I hope you learned something from that.
Of course I did.
I thought she was very helpful. So she's not saying, because you see, I've always been troubled by this idea that, are animals getting cleverer or are they getting sort of,
but I thought it was a stupid question to say, are we still evolving?
She thought it was a very good question.
No, she didn't. She wanted to say to you, really, but she was too polite. How can you tell about evolution over the span of one human's lifetime?
Well, no, you can't.
Because evolution goes over millions of years.
Of course. But what I'm saying is that if, for example, chimpanzees, as a result of these two things that you've noticed, that they're drinking alcohol and they're cooking, does that mean that they're actually getting, in some way, cleverer and that they could catch up with us? What I'm saying is that I don't think that's true. And that's what she agreed with. She said that actually evolution, you're going to be all right. Evolution is not always about becoming cleverer. It's just about adapting to your environment.
I wanted the doc to tell me something about man's inhumanity to primates, because it's obvious.
That's why you introduced the ludicrous Clint Eastwood question.
Well, that wasn't a ludicrous question.
Yeah, it was.
What was ludicrous about that?
It was embarrassing.
It wasn't embarrassing.
I was trying to make out that you were some kind of expert. And you kind of gave yourself away as being a bit of a dud.
Don't you think that millions of people around the world who saw the Clint Eastwood films with Clyde would have had a new empathy and sympathy for primates where they realised how intelligent they can be?
Not at all.
Clyde wasn't, he wasn't made up. He wasn't a stuntman. It wasn't a man dressed up in an orangutan suit.
No, I know that.
It wasn't a child, playing the role of a gorilla.
But we've also since
heard... It was a real live orangutan.
Yeah, but we've also heard since then
and
that he was very badly treated.
It looked more capable to me than you often are after you've been on your Saturday night bladderation trip.
Well, I can read you a couple of tweets and texts for you on that subject if you wish.
Yes, go on.
Because this one is from somebody who doesn't give a name. Spot on, MG. Porky clearly has a massive inferiority complex. Night after night, he is desperate to get one over on you. Stay cool, MG. And then Derek in Pencoeth says this, Mike. So Porky doesn't like it when he's told his ideas are crazy, but he thinks it's okay for him to call you fat and thick, which he does every show. He's a hypocrite.
I don't use that sort of wording. By the way, that one said "Stay cool, Mike." Stay cool, Mike. It's going to be the hottest day of the year today.
I know. Listen, what went wrong with the weather forecast? Because
the
weather forecast said at the beginning of the week that this was going to be suddenly a freezing weekend.
Well, it was.
And the summer was going to disappear again.
Well,
I nearly came in wearing a short-sleeved shirt, but I wasn't convinced that it was going to be that hot.
The first 3 days of this week were beautiful for me. It was like an autumn day. Yeah. And the wind was blowing leaves. I was walking through the downs, and it was brilliant. Today, I had to come into town for some business this morning. Yeah. I had to put a jacket on. There's one thing I blinking well hate. It's the very hot weather and travelling on the tube in a jacket. I turn into a wet sponge.
Yeah, but you don't have to put a jacket on. I mean, you're wearing shorts at the moment, right? Which I haven't remarked upon. I don't mind that you're wearing shorts.
Yeah, but this is the middle of the night.
But why don't you come into if you had to visit people here, for example, earlier in the day? Why couldn't you just come in dressed like that?
Because I went home. I had a shower. It was a very hot day. I felt like a wet sponge. I thoroughly showered myself, rinsed myself of the day's travails, and then refreshed myself tonight. Pair of shorts because. And then, of course, I got in the car and found I got a puncture.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What are you going to do about that?
I don't know.
You're going to have to stop in at the Merc dealer again.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've already got to go to the Merc dealer to get the brakes fitted.
Do you know how to change a tyre?
No, of course I don't know.
You don't know how to change a tyre?
No, I'm not the sort of person who changes tyres.
Oh, really? Oh, it's too good for you, is it?
No, it's not
too good. Not that you're a snob
or
anything.
No, it's not too good for me.
Perhaps you could get one of those people travelling second class on the train to fix it on their way to wherever they're going in their horrible, awful train carriage.
I'm not going to respond to that. The reason I would not change a tyre on a car...
Because you don't know how.
Well, that's
That's the main reason.
I have to say, mechanically inept, and if I damage the car... Sorry, what...
It's not just mechanically.
What's your problem?
Trust me. Hey?
What's your problem?
Well, you've just admitted that you're inept.
Well, at least I don't
clip that.
At least I don't go around smashing my car up and saying, I think I'll just leave that dent in the car because it looks great.
I haven't smashed my car up.
Your car is still smashed up. It's parked downstairs in the car park. You never got it fixed.
Somebody dented my car. I've explained to you why I haven't got it fixed.
So I might be mechanically inept, but you're body panel inept, you are.
Body panel inept. I'm not sure that's a phrase. Now, coming up in the next hour, it's going to be time for the Porky quiz, which, of course, is on Colombo, which you claim to be an expert in. The independent quizmasters had quite a struggle, actually, putting the questions together because it's quite difficult to ask questions about one TV show. But we've also got a surprise guest coming on, who's a man who's written a few episodes of Colombo.
Brilliant, good.
And he's also a man that used to drink in one of your old haunted lanes in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
So it may well be that you even met him at some point or other in Bladderation back in the
used to
late
see
80s.
Phil Spector in there, didn't we, in the lanes?
Yeah.
He's now doing 35 years, hasn't he?
He certainly is, yeah,
in
for
San
murder.
Quentin, that's right.
For murder. Well, we used to see a lot of people. We saw Michael Caine in there.
That's right,
We see Keith Richards in there quite a lot. But anyway, we'll talk some more about that. And, of course, also, coming up, we will be looking at some of the other big stories on the back pages, on the front pages as well. If you haven't been to the Two Mics yet, follow us at the Two Mics on Twitter. You'll see the video that we've done, not with a cast and crew of 30, but just something we did here at TalkSport. It's looking ahead to our appearance at the Lowry Theatre in Manchester on June the 27th. You can text us on 81089.
Mad for it.
Yeah, calm down. For it. You can text us on 81089. You can email us via the website talksport.com. Here's one from Vic in Dagenham. He says, Christopher Lee's best known as Dracula Hammer Fills, but I thought he was brilliant in The Wicker Man as well with Edward Woodward.
Yeah.
He said, how Mr. Parry has never heard of Bela Lugosi is shameful. I'm 50 and I know of him as the original great horror actor.
Really?
I can't believe you've never heard of
I thought it was a
Bela Lugosi.
woman when he said Bella. I thought that's some,
Bela Lugosi was not a woman.
I thought some female. Now I've got one here which is rather questioning from Dash. Stupid name, Dash.
I don't think it's his real
name. And it says only Mr. Parry could regard Clint Eastwood as more famous for liberation of chimpanzees than being an Oscar-winning actor.
That's true.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what was the biggest contribution he made to life? Was it winning a few little statues and bigging up big Dirty Harry, or was it liberating Clyde, the orangutan? I'd say liberating Clyde.
Yeah, I know you would. I'm just thankful you didn't call him Lee Clintwood, to be honest.
Yeah.
But there we are. This is TalkSport Extra Time. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on this morning in about 5 or 6 hours from now. Just follow us at the Two Mics. And, of course, you can find us as well on our new website, thetwomics.co.uk.
That's right.
Where you get all sorts of information, all sorts of clips. And there might be some T-shirts on there as well, any day now. Now, you were telling me about charity shops at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
And you never got around to asking me a very important question that you said you were going to ask me.
Well, we had the conversation last night about you said you got too many shirts and all that, take them to the charity shop.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you seen the way charity shops now dominate high streets?
Yes.
And that can't be good, can it, for the ordinary retailer who's paying taxes and all that? Charity shops get all sorts of concessions because they are allegedly giving money to charity.
Do they get cheaper business rates and stuff as well?
Yeah, they do. I don't think they pay business rates. I think that's the whole idea. And I think the most local authorities will say, look, 3 empty shops in a high street is a sign that the high street is depleted, that the economy's on the wane, and this town's no good.
Well,
Give
it's
it to
charity shops and pound shops, isn't it? A lot of high streets. That's all that's left.
You're right. Yeah, but there's a wider issue here, man. The wider issue, first of all, charity shops now where I live, down in Stockbroker, Surrey, are actually used as just a dumping ground for people who can't be bothered to go to the tip.
Yeah, right.
And I mean that seriously.
And I think that's a big problem because quite often, if you ring the charity shop, for example, and say, and this has happened to me in the past, where you've got a bit of furniture, quite often they won't come and get it because they're not interested in having it because they say, we literally haven't got the room.
No, but what I'm saying is, sometimes you see huge boxes full of children's toys.
Yeah.
So what they're trying to pretend is that they're kind-heartedly leaving them outside, but they dump them on a Sunday when the signs all over the windows of these charity shops which say, please do not leave goods outside. They get stolen. They attract vermin sometimes, believe it or not, because, the foxes think there's a box. I'll think I'll break into it, see if there's any food in that box and all that kind of stuff. They're an absolute nuisance. But the wider issue is the whole of the charity industry in this country is now under the spotlight. I've cut back massively on what I donate to charities because I object to the bosses of charities which are there to provide relief to people. That's the definition of a charity, help to people who can't help themselves. these guys are getting £350,000 a year to run massive organisations with huge offices.
But to be fair, you and I have been saying this for a long time, and it's only now that certain people are kind of picking up on it. And there was one of the newspapers, I think, just in the last few days, who listed all the heads of the top charities in this country.
That's right.
And they're all on mega six-figure salaries.
Yeah, but part of this, Mike, see, part of this, and this is when we get to charity shops, is you ask anybody now who runs a charity shop, it used to be on a voluntary basis and all that. Most charity shops now have got a paid manager, whereas it used to always be a purely voluntary thing. Yeah. So, for instance, a charity shop that started as Friends of Harefield Hospital, of which I'm a sort of leading member, because that's where I was treated for my heart and still am as an outpatient.
Yeah, that's only a third of your heart works. You've gone through the whole show so far and you haven't mentioned that.
Well, I like to talk about it.
I know you don't.
I like to keep it quiet. You know, I don't want sympathy for people just because I'm an invalid.
An invalid,
but no, what I was going to say is that still to this day rests purely on voluntary contributions from people. You know, one day a week, a lady who's son or husband or something who's been treated in the hospital will come in and she'll man the shop one day a week or something like that. You know, it's 2 or 3 of the ladies who do it. And what they do is they bake cakes, and they bring the cakes in and they sell them in the shop, you know, and they do coffees and all this kind of stuff.
That's a very low-level charity
Very
work,
low-level charity.
Yeah.
But some of the charity shops now, this is where it really gets my goat. What you would always used to say, I mean, do you remember in the sort of, you know, in the 80s, it became trendy for all the top models to say, oh, no, I get my clothes at Oxfam. Right. You know, you were really trendy if you got your clothes at Oxfam.
Well, it was very trendy in the 70s.
Yeah,
I actually had a jacket from Oxfam.
Did you? Yeah, OK, all right, well, in the 70s. Now, the whole idea of this was, I'm wearing second-hand clothes. But when you go to some of these charity shops now, most of the goods are brand new.
Are they?
Most of the goods are brand new.
I must say I've not been in a charity shop
Right,
for a
well,
long time.
I tell you, I examine these things, and do you know why? Because having property, you always scour charity shops for ornaments and things like that, you know, and mirrors and all that kind of stuff.
Is that what you do? No, I had no
paintings,
idea.
paintings, all that kind of stuff.
Well, you've got loads of paintings, of course, that you bought from my father.
Well, yeah, I know, but, OK. We won't go on about that.
No, I don't think we should, no.
But what I was going to say is, so you go in, and do you know what? The price of stuff in charity shops now is markedly more than it was 10 years ago.
Really?
And in fact, what I'm saying is, whereas a charity shop used to be given the benefit of a rate-free premise in order to sell second-hand goods to raise money for the needy who benefited from a charity, you're now seeing the charity industry as a direct competitor to established high street chains,
and presumably,
and it's rubbish and it's out of control.
Yeah.
It should be closed down.
But presumably, if that continues, though, people who are trying to run regular businesses that don't get all these breaks will be complaining and saying, "Well, why should they be allowed to operate in a very sort of prime retail site when I can't afford to go there?"
They already are. I mean, if you've got a shop there that pays rates and all that, and they sell ceramic goods, so they nicely coloured bowls and plates and all that kind of stuff. And there's a charity shop 3 doors down, which literally is selling, what you call that stuff from Burslem in the potteries, Wedgwood.
Oh, yeah.
And it's selling Wedgwood and all that at full price and all that kind of stuff, but cheaper because their overheads are cheaper. They don't pay rates, they don't pay tax on it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's unfair competition.
Right.
The charity industry in this country is no longer a charity, in my view. It's a dynamic and, in my view, overbearing influence on this country. Do you know what I hate now, Mike?
What do you hate now?
Because of a TV review that I did last night, OK.
Porky Vision.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
A lot of people thought that was very funny.
What do you mean? I'm a serious reviewer.
Yeah, no, but they thought it was very funny, even though it gave them absolutely no information at all.
What do you
They
know
claimed that you repeated the previous Porky Vision.
I don't know what they're on about.
Fire at Coronation Street.
No, I didn't. I think they
might be getting confused with last week's quiz.
Hang on. The Fire on Coronation Street went over at least 6 episodes.
Oh, did it? OK.
And there's only 4 episodes a week, so of course it overlapped into a second week.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, you have to watch some of these ITV4, ITV3 channels.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of adverts now which are heart pullers, you know what I mean? You know, pictures of poor, distressed little children who need clean water, who need food, you know, who are being treated badly by their parents and all that. I mean, really pulling the heartstrings and all that. I think it's emotional blackmail. You can't possibly contribute to every charity that asks you for money, and we are bombarded, absolutely bombarded
we're hearing more
by
and more
people
stories,
asking for money.
We're hearing more and more stories about how a lot of these charities actually outsource the phoning that they do as well.
Absolutely right.
To these kind of, really, really aggressive people on the other end of a phone. And they're not actually working for the charity, they're being paid to bring money in.
Do you know what? There was a secretary at the Daily Express that I knew, OK? And she suddenly came in one day and said she was leaving, you know. And
the secretary of the Daily Express?
Secretary
Don't name her.
I won't name her. I won't name her now.
Thank
She's
goodness for
a
that.
very nice girl, but she's leading her own life now. But anyway, she came one morning.
Did you brighten it up for her for a while?
I did indeed. Yeah, I did.
Top man.
And she said, "Oh, I said, where are you going?" And she was going off to work for a charity in the Aldwych, which is in central London.
The Aldwych,
just the end of Fleet Street.
The Aldwych.
The Aldwych.
The
Aldwych. And anyway, I said, "Oh, what do you do?" And what she was doing.
That Save the Children there, isn't it?
I don't know which one it was, to be honest. I'm not sure. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, she was going there, and her job, right, was initially to sort of learn the business and all that, and then to take control of a team of cold callers who were calling to ask you to donate money to the charity.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a charity. That's a blinking business.
Yeah, well, exactly.
And it's all very well to say, oh yeah, but the ultimate outcome of it is that children all around the world are being helped. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that the percentages are right.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that children are being helped, but certainly the percentages are not as we would like them to be.
In some charities, I'm told, right, and I can't produce the documentary evidence for this, but I've had a lot of conversations with people about this. Up to 75% of money taken in by some charities goes on wages, salaries, and expenses.
Pensions. Don't forget pensions as well.
And the. I mean, some of these charities, the buildings that they work out of, would put a West End advertising agency to shame.
Yeah, no, exactly right.
Yeah.
But I'm now confused because you said to me last night that I should give my shirts to charity. You're saying I shouldn't do that now.
Look, I don't mind if you take your shirts along to a charity high shop for
They'll
free.
probably say they don't want them, though,
for free. Well, they probably will. They probably will. That's absolutely true. I mean, my mum worked in retail all her life at Debenhams, various Debenhams stores around the country and whatever. And then at the end, she decided she retired, and she was in her 70s then. She was still very, very capable. She'd had the thought about going to work in a charitable shop,
right?
And she tried one or two, and then said it wasn't for her. And I said, "Why?" She said, "It's not a charity anymore.
No.
It doesn't feel like you're working for a charity. It feels like you're working for a realise a big profit type operation."
Right. Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much indeed for that, Mr. Parry.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd let you know.
Yeah, well, it's always good to get your views on these things.
I ask anybody out there who's one of our millions of listeners, really think about what you want to donate your money to. Because I think I've told you this before. I've taken a lot of money out of sending it to international charitable groups and giving it to a horse foundation in Surrey, because I can go there, see the horses, and I know where my money goes.
Is it a Horse Charger Foundation?
Hey?
Is it a Horse Charger
Foundation? No, it's not a Horse Charger Foundation, you... blithering idiot.
Just checking. Now, coming up, it's the Porky quiz on Columbo, of course. Coming up next, though, we're going to talk to Charles Kipps, a man who knows an awful lot about that subject. This is Talk Sport.
Talk Sport.
And it's in!
A diving header at the end of a 50-yard run.
From the root to the tip.
Talk Sport.
Very, very shortly, we're going to do the Columbo quiz for Mr. Parry, which is his expert subject of the week, of course. And I'm delighted to say that to give you a little help before we do the quiz, we've managed to find a guy who knows an awful lot about Columbo on the grounds he actually wrote some of the scripts for it.
Oh, brilliant.
He also wrote the 25th anniversary edition of it.
Wow.
And the reason we were playing that song, The Hustle, which you might remember from your disco days,
I certainly do,
is that he also had, incredibly, a collaboration with Van McCoy.
I was going to say Van McCoy,
who was the guy who recorded The Hustle back in the disco era. His name is Charles Kipps. And Charles, a very warm welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. Now, if I say Mike, I'm right both times, right?
Yeah, absolutely you are. But thanks very much for coming on our show. What an historic career you've had to have written some of those Columbo episodes. Can I ask you which in particular episode you might have written, which I've seen?
No, I wrote the 25th anniversary Columbo. That's the one I wrote.
Brilliant.
Which was called A Trace of Murder.
A Trace of Murder.
And what happened, just a very brief history.
Yeah.
Peter Falk had not done a Columbo for a while, and Universal, who I was working with at the time on other things, came to me and said, Peter Falk, we're trying to get him to do, ABC wants him to do another Columbo, and it's the 25th anniversary, but he keeps turning down everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, go back to New York, and I was in L.A., and write the script, and then call Peter, here's his number. Mm-hmm. So when I got back to New York, I said, wait a minute, I'm not going to write in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. So I called Peter, and he flew to New York, and I pitched a story to him for like 7 straight days, morning, noon, and night, and just got a lot of input from him before I started writing. And so then it obviously worked out. Peter loved the script, and that's how that 25th anniversary episode came about.
What was the plot of that one, please, Charles?
What was the what?
The plot. What was the plot of that particular episode?
All right, the plot was, and it was a plot that had not... the other reason I think he liked it a lot, and the plot had not been used before, which was, this part of a plot has been used. A woman wants to kill her husband. She's got a lover. and then she decides maybe instead of killing him, we'll frame him for a murder.
Oh.
So she and her lover frame her husband for a murder.
Yeah.
And it turns out her lover is the head of Los Angeles Forensic Department.
Right.
And so Columbo arrives on the scene, and who's he talking to but the collaborator?
I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen that episode. Yeah, fantastic.
Luckily, that one doesn't figure in the quiz. So you don't have to worry.
Yeah.
You must have got to know Peter Falk, Charles, over this period of time. What was he? I mean, you get the impression watching Columbo that he's not really acting. I mean, was he such a great actor, or was he very like that in real life?
Well, let me put it this way. He was a great actor, and he was like that in real life. I mean, to me, the greatest actors out there, the ones that I say, these are the great actors, Jack Nicholson, Clint Eastwood, they play themselves pretty much. Jack is always Jack. Clint's always Clint. And Peter, he had a little bit different range, but for example, when I pitched him the story, it was exactly like Columbo. I started the story, and then he would stop me and say, okay, now, Charlie, and by the way, forgive me, I have a cold, so half of America has a cold. Yeah. You're going to have to start quarantining Americans when they come in there.
Yeah, so. We did that already, actually.
But anyway, so he, it was great working with him because, I mean, the attitude of a lot of these writers before, they didn't want, I wanted to talk to him, so I got to know him very, very, very well. And he actually taught me a lot because when I first started pitching this episode, which you guys have seen.
Yeah.
He stopped me at first. He said, no, what's the pop? I want to hear the pop first. Pop meaning the point that the plot turns when you catch the murderer.
I see.
And he said, if you don't have that, you don't have a Columbo episode. You don't have a mystery.
It's brilliant. And Charles, in that episode you're talking about, of course, the forensic scientist kept gerrymandering the evidence, didn't he, to try and cover up for the real crime that was going on. Did you have any part, Charles, in establishing what really was the key activity for Columbo, and that was leaving the room after questioning the suspect and then coming back 5 seconds later, knocking on the door again, saying, "Oh, by the way, sir."
No, absolutely not. That was established way, way, way back. That was the Peter Falk thing, So as a matter of fact, before I wrote this episode, I had Universal send me a bunch of episodes, and I watched like nonstop, wall-to-wall episodes, just to get into that feeling.
Yeah.
And here's a bit of trivia for you. You're doing a trivia thing, right? Okay, Peter is an actor, meaning he doesn't mess around with the dialogue. He doesn't do that. He learns he's not like a lot of actors that want to improvise all the time.
Right.
But Peter did improvise one line that I could never have written and never would have written in my life.
Yeah.
And that's when the forensic guy is leaving. Columbo stops him and says, okay, let's work together on this. 3 eyes are better than 2.
Yeah, excellent.
Very good.
And I'm sure you can imagine that I wouldn't dare to write that.
No, I can imagine. Also, what I noticed about Columbo, being a big fan of it over the years, is it eventually became one of those shows, a bit like The Simpsons, where great actors and actresses wanted to appear in Columbo as a mark of their achievement in their career.
Yeah, I mean, everybody really wanted to do Columbo because Columbo had this interesting element of mystery and humor and great acting, and so they lined up. All the great actors wanted to wanted to do that, and then it was like a problem. I've talked to Peter about it. Sometimes in the past, he would say there would be a problem. You'd have like 3 or 4 of America's greatest television stars knocking on the door at the same time,
Sure.
And it's really stood the test of time as well.
Oh,
I mean,
it's
shown here all the time. Porky here watches it repeatedly on afternoons. In fact, you've told me that you quite like watching it. It helps you to calm down.
Yeah.
And what Mr. Parry does, you might find this strange, actually, Charles, is he sometimes deliberately avoids watching the start of it so that he can try and work out who the murderer is before having not seen the start of the show.
Exactly.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
I do, because it's obvious that Columbo, when he comes to the scene of a homicide, he knows immediately who the killer is, and then the brilliance of the plot is always how he gets to proving it, You know, we know who it is because we've seen the opening, and it was a really different way to do these cop series, wasn't it? To show the murder first and then unravel how the killer was caught, rather than the other way around. And it was brilliant. Tell me this, Charles, when in all these attempts to get Peter Falk back to do this anniversary episode that you wrote, did they lure him eventually? Because I know this happened in some episodes. Did they lure him eventually by giving him the producer's title or the director's title, so that he had a much greater input into the show as well as just acting in it?
Yeah, well, he was a producer for a long time, executive producer.
Right.
I don't think he ever was a director. I'm not sure. I have to check that out. But yeah, he was the executive producer. But I think one of the reasons that it all worked out is because I called him before I wrote a word.
Oh.
And he was so into that character. Keep in mind, he created this character. Yeah. He had a certain desire to protect the integrity of the character.
Yeah.
So I really think it worked because I literally hung out with him, from breakfast till late night drinks for 7 days, 8 days.
And you guys used to hang out like Mr. Parry and I used to hang out very much in the 80s in Elaine's, which is not there anymore, is it?
Yeah, no, it's not there. She died. Matter of fact, we ended every night at Elaine's. So it's, and he loved Elaine's. He absolutely loved Elaine's.
Yeah. Imagine walking into Elaine's and seeing Colombo.
I've got a feeling, thinking about this, that I did see him in there one night, just at a table. I might have seen you both together. But Charles, let me just ask you another question. You've written a lot of books as well, but how on earth does you go from writing scripts to Columbo to being involved with Van McCoy and kind of having a kind of executive producer credit on The Hustle and some other really amazing soul tunes?
Yeah.
Well, I'll put it this way: I've always been a writer. When I was in high school, I'm 6'8", so I was a basketball player. But I also was the editor of the magazine, a literary magazine. So I've always been a writer, and it's too long a story. We don't have that much time. But what happened was I accidentally discovered a group called the Presidents, and they had the song 5, 10, 15, 25 Years of Love, which was a hit in the 70s. And a Grammy-nominated song, and that's how I met Van. And then I had always loved music. I played guitar, and so I kind of just got sidetracked in the music business and, worked with Aretha Franklin, Gladys Knight, David Ruffin. And then I went back to writing, books or television at first, and now I'm writing books, mystery novels. And by the way, I just started writing mystery novels recently after the Colombo, and I got to tell you, I don't think. Peter Falk inspired me to write these mystery novels because once I realized what he was saying, get the pop, and then you have everything. You have a book, you have a script, you have everything. So the third one is out now. I'm shamelessly
give it a shameless plug. Why not?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so it's called Times Square Trouble. It's available on Amazon UK, and it's about a musician. It's about a cop who'd rather be a musician. So you can see where this all kind of dovetailed, my music career. And like a New York newspaper called it, a fictional detective in a real neighborhood. So all the restaurants, all the diners in the book are real. And all the people in the restaurants and the diners are real. Of course, the crime is not, and the cop is not. So it's almost like a travel guide if somebody is coming to New York, because it's not just a mystery. You can go to all the restaurants that are in the book. But anyway, that's my shameless plug. So we'll go back to Colombo now.
Charles, listen, that's
great. Charles, thank you ever so much.
We'd love to get you back on again. I'm sure we will. Charles Kipps, what a character. He's won an Emmy, he's won a Peabody, he's won a Mystery Writers Edgar Award, and he's been nominated for Grammys, received 7 gold records, 2 Broadcast Music Inc. Awards.
Unbelievable.
What an incredible career. He reminds me of some of those guys that we used to meet in New York and sort of hang out with. Yeah. Remember Milt Macklin, who was the guy that wrote The French Connection? And I met him in the very early days of Costello's.
Amazing.
And he'd made so much money from The French Connection script that he bought an apartment on Greenwich, on Washington Square Park in Greenwich Village. Right? Amazing characters.
Absolutely
anyway,
fantastic.
I hope it didn't help you too much with the old Columbo quiz.
He didn't need to. I know everything about Columbo. It's not a problem. Don't worry about it.
Excellent. Well, Columbo, time for the Porky quiz, of course. It's a very, very highly anticipated moment of the week, it has to be said.
That music was only the theme music to 3 Columbo episodes.
Was it really?
It didn't have an official music, Columbo, because it usually opened with the credits.
Yes.
And the action.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, fascinating stuff. I mean, maybe you do know more about Columbo than we know. Now,
indeed.
as per usual, they did struggle a lot, but the independent quizmasters have managed to put 10 questions together.
Excellent.
As ever, if you get one correct, you will hear this sound.
Just one more thing.
Oh, I like that.
And, of course, if you get one wrong, you will hear this.
You're a sly little elf, and you should be sitting under your own private little toadstool.
Well, that's rather elongated and
rather
offensive.
Good. Well, I wouldn't say that, considering some of the things you say to me. Now, are you ready?
You won't hear that one very much tonight.
Well, okay. Well, if you say so. Have you got any devices there, by the way, before we start?
No.
Can I just double check that?
I'm going to tell you now. I'm going to tell you now. Some very helpful chap has sent me at least 10 facts about Colombo.
Really?
On my phone.
Right.
What have I done with my phone?
Where is your phone?
I've left it outside.
Have you?
I have. It's charging.
Have you not got anything written down in front of you then? He's
Nothing.
showing a pair of clean pair of hands.
Nothing.
You got no notes or anything?
No notes.
All right.
Nothing.
All right. Question number 1.
Right.
What was Columbo's first name?
Frank.
Correct.
Just one more thing.
Question number 2. Which famous Hollywood name directed the 1971 episode Murder by the Book about a writer who kills his collaborator?
A writer who kills his collaborator. Now, I know about this one, and what happened was the writer who did the killing took his writing collaborator to his country lodge. You know, like these Americans go away at the weekend to, upstate and all that kind of stuff. That's and he killed him there. Now then, what was the question?
The question is who directed that episode?
Who directed that episode? And what was the clue? He's a Hollywood director.
A Hollywood name, yeah.
Hollywood name? What, an actor or?
Well, a Hollywood name is the question. I can't vary from
name. Do you know what? I think it was Steven Spielberg.
Correct.
Just one more thing.
Thank you.
Question number 3.
This is going well.
When did the episode Columbo's Last Case air on television?
Was that the last episode of Columbo?
Well, the episode was called Columbo's Last Case.
Yes.
When did it air on television?
That was 1987.
Incorrect.
You're a sly little elf, and you should be sitting under your own private little toadstool.
What? It never did air because, unfortunately, Columbo, by that time, was suffering from dementia, so they could never put
what
it
a
out.
stupid question.
Well, that's a perfectly
That
good
is
question.
a trick question.
It's not a trick question.
That's very unfair.
Question number 4.
Very unfair.
Well, hang on, you got 2 out of 3 so far, so that's not bad.
Yeah.
Question number 4.
Yeah.
One famous British actor directed and starred as the murderer in 3 episodes. Who is he?
Did you say British?
Yes.
I would say he was Irish, and it was Patrick McGowan.
Correct.
Thank you.
Just one more thing.
Thank you.
Question number 5. What kind of car did Columbo drive?
He drove a Peugeot.
Any idea what kind?
Well, it was a soft top Peugeot.
Yeah, it was a cabriolet. It was a
Thank
Peugeot
you.
403 Grand Lux
Thank
cabriolet.
you.
One more thing.
Thank you.
You've already
Hey.
got 4 out of 5.
Oh.
Extraordinary performance.
Oh.
You sure you're not cheating?
No.
Question number
Of course
6.
I'm not, yeah.
In which episode from 1978 did Columbo stumble across a Sinn Féin plot to smuggle guns into Ireland?
Right.
And I need the title of the episode.
Do you know what this was? This was an Irish writer who was smuggling guns back to the old country. He eventually got caught because they took the stuff out on the pilot's boat, not on the main ship that was taking the cases of guns. Now, I think it's a bit unfair to ask the exact title of that episode. Is that what you're asking?
That's what I'm asking, yeah. Well, it's not me asking it, it's the independent quiz.
I mean, I know the episode. It was all about gun running on a ship to Ireland, and this fellow was a very popular academic. He lectured in Irish affairs. That's right, lectured in Irish affairs at the University of Stanford. Is Stanford in California?
Stanford is in California.
Yeah, he lectured at the University of Stanford in Irish affairs, and the name of the episode would have to be something like, Back to the Old Country, or it had some Irish connotation,
I'm thinking out loud.
I'm thinking out loud.
Okay.
Thinking out loud. I think it was.
I mean, you've been so much on the money. I have to be very strict with the answer. I'm afraid.
Yeah. Well, I think that's an incredibly precise answer you want, because I've told you the plot of the programme, and I don't know the title of the. I'm going to guess and say something like. A Taste of the Blarney.
Incorrect.
You're a
Yeah,
sly
what's it
little
called?
elf, and you should be sitting under your own private
It's
little
called the
toadstool.
Conspirators.
Conspirators. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't even have an Irish twist to it, does it? You know?
Doesn't that need to have an
ridiculous
Irish
question
name?
that was.
Question number 7.
You see, you're gerrymandering the
4.
questions because you're making them harder.
No, I'm not.
As soon as I rack
They're
up
all
a load
written-
of
they're all written in
a
front
load
of
of
me
yeses.
here.
Yeah,
No, they're all written in front of me here. I can't change them.
go on,
Question number 7. What did Columbo lose on a cruise to Mexico in the 1975 episode Troubled Waters?
What did he lose? Right, now I'll tell you what this one was.
I mean, you are.
Yeah.
This is as much of an expert
Yes.
showing as I've ever seen.
Yes, OK. What happened in this episode was that there was an entertainer on board and he had to get rid of somebody who's going to expose him as something done in his past. And the man who played the arch-villain in this one was Napoleon Solo from The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And his name was...
Ilya Kuryakyn.
No, it was the other guy. It was, he played in all those American political things as well.
You mean Robert Thingy?
Yeah, he actually appeared in Coronation Street,
Right.
this guy.
Robert, was it Robert somebody?
Yeah, it was,
Robert Vaughan?
No, yeah, could have been Robert. It was Ilya Kuryakyn.
Well, Ilya Kuryakyn was Napoleon Solo, wasn't he?
No.
Are you sure?
No, Ilya Kuryakyn was Ilya Kuryakyn.
Oh, was he?
And Napoleon Solo was the other character.
Oh, okay.
See what I mean? I think it was Robert Vaughan.
All right.
So what did he lose on that ship? And he went with his wife, but
Yeah.
you never saw his wife in any of the episodes. And then he had to get diverted from the concert, the cabaret, because the...
It's unbelievable how much you know about this.
You
spend hours watching.
Yeah, the captain came along and said, we found a body. And so from being on a cruise on holiday, he became the detective aboard the ship. So what did he lose on that? Did he lose his trousers?
He did not lose his trousers,
Right.
no.
You're a
Incorrect.
sly little elf, and
What
you should
was
be
it?
sitting under
He
your
lost
own
his
private
wife.
little toadstool.
He lost his wife?
He lost his wife.
Well, I said he never saw his wife.
Yeah, he lost her. That's why he never saw her. You know where she went.
Well, that's another trick question.
not.
I said you never saw his wife on that cruise.
Well, you never saw his
so
wife.
he must have
ever.
lost her.
No,
he must have lost her.
No, he lost his wife
Well,
on
that's
that
another
cruise.
damned...
No, it isn't. You got 4 out of 7. You're doing very well.
This is a disgrace.
We're told
a
to hurry up.
disgrace.
Question
Yeah, go
number
on.
8. When did Peter Falk die?
Peter Falk died... let me get this absolutely right. I think Peter Falk died in 2012.
Incorrect.
You're
What?
a sly
When was
little
it?
elf, and you should be
2011.
sitting under your
Oh,
own private
that's
little
ridiculous.
toadstool.
Why?
You should have given me a range of at least 2 years.
No, why should I give you
That's
2 years?
terribly unfair. This
Not at
is
all.
unfair. I demand that the audience respond
Why are
with
you suddenly going back to normal?
vile abuse to
No.
old
You're doing very
Fatso
well.
here.
Now, question number 9. Which current US actor is in talks to reprise the role?
What, of Colombo?
Yeah.
That's not a question about Colombo.
Yes, it is.
It is not a question about the
Of course
Colombo
it is.
episodes that I've watched religiously to prepare for this quiz. I'm refusing to answer that question.
Well, then you will be marked
No,
with
no.
a non-answer.
See, as soon as I get 4 right, then you make the questions more difficult.
No, I'm just reading
It's
the
utter
questions right
rubbish.
here.
So what's the question again?
Question number 9. Which
Yeah.
current US actor is in talks to reprise the role?
That's not about Colombo.
It is.
It's madness,
Who
that.
wants to reprise the role of Columbo?
Is
It's
this an
about
American
Columbo.
actor? It's an American actor.
Which current US actor?
Current US
Listen
actor?
to the question instead of jumping up
I
and down.
reckon that could be. Now, it could be either. I'm thinking aloud.
Thinking aloud, okay.
Could be Johnny Depp. Could be the guy who was in what was it? Gladiator? No, he was New Zealand, wasn't he? Shut up, will you? Stop laughing. Could be the guy who's married to Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, it could be.
Now, Angelina Jolie's married to Brad Pitt. It could be
right.
Brad Pitt.
Incorrect.
Brad Pitt.
You're a
well, you see,
sly little elf,
see, it's
and you
not
should be
even
sitting
about
under your
Colombo.
own
That
private
question.
little toadstool.
It's Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah.
I've never heard of Mark Ruffalo.
Well, he's never heard of you either.
That rhymes with Gruffalo. As far as I'm
It does.
concerned, that's about the state of that question.
Very Ruffalo. Now, final question, number 10. I feel confident you might get this one. Which former Bond girl played Lillian Stanhope in Dagger of the Mind?
Dagger of the Mind. Former Bond girl. Dagger of the Bond girl? No, it's not.
I'll have to hurry you.
No, hang on. It's not Pussy Galore. It's not Bond girl, not Dinah Rigg. Was it Dinah Rigg? Could have been Dinah Rigg. I wonder if it's Dinah Rigg.
This is how your mind works.
Hang on.
Fascinating.
Britt Eklund. I don't think it was Britt Eklund. I don't think she was in an episode. I reckon it was Dinah Rigg.
Incorrect.
You're a sly little
Who
elf,
is it?
and you should be
It was
sitting
Honor
under your
Blackman.
own private
Who?
little toadstool.
Honor Blackman.
I said Pussy Galore.
You said it's not Pussy Galore.
And you
That was what
idiot
you
sat
said.
there and didn't say anything.
You said it's not Pussy Galore.
I said I knew
You
Pussy.
said it's not Pussy Galore.
I knew that Honor Blackman had been in an episode of Colombo, but I didn't think it was that one.
Well,
Why on earth didn't you give me a clue?
Because you didn't say Honor Blackman anyway.
Do you know what? How many are you officially saying I got right?
You got 4 out of 10.
That's ridiculous.
Which is very well done.
I got
higher than your normal average.
I got at least 3 or 4 where I was very, very close indeed, and that's a damned calumny.
Yeah, well, getting them very close indeed is still getting them wrong. I think you did really well. 4 out of 10. You had off to a great start.
I think the audience...
I think you became overconfident.
No, I think the audience will realise I'm an expert in Colombo, but the questions were just too ludicrous to be able to...
I think you should be very happy with that score.
To be able to reflect my mastery of my subject.
And you did know it very, very well, I must say. I take my hat off to you.
I mean, 2012, 2011, the year he died, absolutely outrageous.
Well, I wouldn't want to meet you at an airport if you get the year wrong.
Absolutely outrageous.
This is Talk Sport. That was the Porky quiz.
What? Ooh! What? Ooh! Wah, wah! Wah, wah!
You do sometimes forget how many amazing things that you've actually done in your career here at Talk Sport.
Why do we play that ridiculous stuff?
Well, it's nothing to do with me.
That is tailor-made. That was tailor-made for a particular situation. Why it should be brought up again is a mystery to me.
We did have that expert on a little bit earlier, didn't we? Dr. Briana Pobiner, human origins research scientist. So it was harking back to that, really. But and also, people really like hearing those things. You know, they like the hey, hey, hey songs and all that. A couple of tweets and texts to read out for you. One from Ken in Jarrow, who says...
Jarrah.
Elia Kuryakin was played by David McCallum.
That's right.
So I've just now remembered that.
And Napoleon Solo was Robert Vaughan,
yeah. Robert in Belfast says, that is some great knowledge on Columbo, Parry. Probably the best I've heard you do in the quiz, and I believe you've been done up in a few of those questions.
Thank you.
Which is a bit harsh. And Michael says, old Porky did very well. He should have had a bit of leeway on a few of those questions. Steve says, and I think this is the problem with some of your followers, this quiz is a disgrace. As soon as MG realises Mr. Parry is doing well, he brings out a load of ludicrous questions.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So the listeners got it. The listeners have got it.
The questions are set by independent arbiters
rubbish.
Before I get them. I'm looking at a tablet with 10 questions on. I'm not able to change them.
There's 20 questions on your tablet, and they go from being moderate to hard to impossible. Yeah. And you gave me at least 2 impossibles tonight. The question about who is playing Colombo and the reprise of the series that I was being questioned on was not even relevant to the subject.
I wouldn't
and
say
the year he died, you say 2011, I said 2012. You should have given me at least 1 year either side.
Why?
That would have been the fairest thing to do.
I don't think so.
Of course it would.
Well, if that's the
that
case,
would have been the fairest thing to do.
The next time you have to ask for that, you should say what sort of leeway. We normally give you a sort of,
10%
leeway one way or the other.
You should have offered it.
Anyway, never mind. The fact is that you did very well. You should be happy with 4 out of 10 instead of moaning and groaning like a child.
Yeah, but the thing is, if the score in a football match is 0-0, but somebody says, they did very well, they hit the bar 6 times, that doesn't go down in the record books as a score.
No, exactly.
It's still 0-0.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, well, I hit the bar 3 times in that quiz.
So it doesn't go down as a score?
No, exactly.
So you still got 4 out of 10?
Should do.
You've just made the argument against yourself.
No, I haven't. It's a damned cheatery.
Now, anyway, I want to point out a couple of stories to you in the papers this morning because one, which is something I've been going on about for a very, very long time. Game Over is the front page of the sports supplement in the Telegraph. London Olympic legacy in tatters as shocking new figures reveal 250,000 people have stopped playing sport. And they've got a picture of what looks like an old dressing room, pair of old trainers on the floor.
How do they work these figures out in that?
Well, because what they do is they go and survey people in the street and find out how many of them are playing sport and if any more of them are playing sport than they were when the Olympics were on. And it turns out actually fewer are. The only thing that's been in any way boosted by the Olympics has been the increased number of cyclists around, which we talked about the other night.
Actually, I've got some stats here from the same report you're talking about. Apparently, the one thing that people are doing is gymnastics.
Yeah.
Up 20%.
Oh, really?
Basketball up 16%. And this one amazes me, weightlifting up 8.34%. Weightlifting's not even a sport.
Well, you see, all of those things will be very small bases as well. I mean, if weightlifting goes up 8%, the number it goes up is practically nothing.
No, you're right. Probably only 100 people practice weightlifting in this country, so now it's 108.
Yeah.
You're quite right.
And looking at a piece in the Telegraph on the front page, actually, it says fitness fans ditch the gym as they catch the running bug. It says the nation's love affair with the gym could be coming to an end.
Down 10%.
Official figures who show a slump in the number of regular users. I think quite a lot of that will be about money as well, because people join gyms, and one of the first things that they cut back on when they can't afford to do everything in their life that they do is their gym membership, I think.
But also, every gym that I've ever joined, I've only ever been once, just for the...
How many gyms have you joined?
About 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because when I was younger, it was always a great place to meet very fit-looking women.
Really?
And I don't mean fit in the sense that you'd use it as an expression to be derogatory to a woman. They were literally very fit because they were actually on these running.
Yeah, you didn't mean fit in a Sid the sexist way.
No, of course not. No, they were fit in the sense that they were always on treadmills and all that kind of stuff. I joined a squash club once for the same reason.
Did you?
Joined a squash club once.
Did you play squash?
No. I bought a bat. I bought a squash bat.
You brought a bat?
Yeah. And, no,
what
seriously.
What did they say? Why have you brought a bat to a squash club?
Yeah. Well,
where'd you find it? Hanging up in the barn?
Sorry, a racket. I mean, yeah, and
certainly was a racket.
Yeah, but I did try and play squash once, but it's so knackering. I would have killed myself.
Did you not
because,
have to play? But did you not have to play against somebody to see whether you were eligible to join?
No, you could join as a social member.
Oh, right.
So I went along with my mate, who it was Colin Bell, the reporter,
I
friend
wasn't
of mine.
asking you for another name.
No. No. I tell you what.
Yeah.
He invited me over to his place, and he said, "Look, I've got to go over and because they have the squash leagues, you see."
Yeah.
And you know when
it's a very draining physical.
But they have these squash leagues where you meet somebody and play. You don't have to know them, but you're suddenly drawn against them, and you have to fulfil the fixture.
Yeah.
So we were over there once. He said, "Oh, I forgot I've got a game of squash. So I'll come over with you." And I'll tell you where it was. It was in Richmond.
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
So I go over there
down by the swimming baths there because they used to have squash courts.
Yeah,
there.
I think it was actually. Yeah,
that was right next to the Royal Mid-Surrey Golf Club.
Oh, well, that's right. Yeah, that's
remember,
yeah. So anyway, so I go there. So he goes on playing squash. I stay in the bar. Load of great looking girls there, and really, really great. So I thought, well, best way to.
Did you have all the gear on? Did you have like gym clothes on?
No. As I say, I went as a social member. I thought I'd get into this. So I went off and bought the bat and the gear. Right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and well, it looks like a bat because it's a great long handle and a tiny little head on it. You know, it looks more like a bat than it does a racket.
Well, no, a bat doesn't have a long sort of.
Well, anyway. So I started playing, and do you know what? I think it must have been on reflection, the first indication that only 1/3 of my heart works. Because after about 4 minutes, I was completely unable to move.
Yeah.
I mean, my legs had gone.
And it's also very hot in a squash.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
yeah. So I said, look, I can't do this any longer. I'm sorry. So I left and went back to the bar.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Colin, who I played with, Colin Bell, he was very fit and all that. And it was amazing to see the decline that set into the boy because he became an alcoholic and drank himself to death by the age he was 35. It's a bit of a shame, really. Yeah, he was a good squash player.
How much did he drink?
Oh, about a bottle of whiskey a day. But he used to disguise it as Iron Brew. He used to put it in Iron Brew bottles and carry it around in a briefcase.
How awful.
And every 15 minutes in the newsroom...
I didn't know he died when he was 35.
He was, honestly, he was incredibly young.
astonishing.
And he went off and he would take his briefcase to the loo with him.
Yeah.
And, everybody just looked at each other, knew what was going on. And in the loo, he'd take out his bottle of Iron Brew, which wasn't Iron Brew.
Yeah.
And he'd had it for so long, the label had been scratched off, so it was a really scruffy bottle of Iron Brew. And it was full of whiskey.
I mean, if you had a briefcase, you might as well have just had a bottle of whiskey, mightn't you?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I suppose if somebody walked into the loo while he was swigging out of a bottle, it would be better to be a bottle of Iron Brew than a bottle of whiskey, you know. Yeah, but anyway, that's...
So that was the second one. So other gyms that you've joined then since then?
I joined the...
Were you told to join one after your situation with the heart, that you were supposed to go and work on a treadmill or something?
No, not at all. No, not at all. I joined...
So you always joined for nefarious reasons then?
Yeah, absolutely. Everywhere I moved house, around Surrey, I joined the local club.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always a gym. Like, I joined a cricket club once.
Yeah, I remember you told me about that.
Cricket and something else I used to play there, hockey, I think.
Bowls?
Or something like that. Bowls, yeah, I think it did bowls as well.
And has it ever borne any fruit for you in the female department?
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah. Because I was able to go in there and tell them all these exciting stories about all these wars I'd been to and all that kind of stuff. I used to sort of hold court.
Did you?
And women almost... I mean, they didn't literally, but they were almost sitting at my feet, listening to these... what are you
I can just imagine the scene.
Listening to these tales of daring do, in some of the world's most dangerous places and all that kind of stuff. And it was a captive audience type thing, you know what I mean? So,
absolutely awful. So you're not currently a member of any gyms anyway?
No.
Because according to this piece in the Telegraph, basically, people are now taking up running in far bigger numbers. It says something like, 222,000 fewer than 6 months ago is the number of people who are actually taking some exercise, which is what's telling everyone that the Olympic legacy is indeed dead.
But you see, I don't get this. When is some doctor going to be brave enough to step forward and say people who go running on hard roads are knackering up their joints? Don't know why they do it.
It's not a very good idea.
Knackering up their back, knackering up their joints, all that kind of stuff. Shouldn't do it and all that kind of stuff. But what I really find intrusive is the caveat to this report. The Conservative government are likely to face criticism given given the research suggests that the biggest drop is in sports like swimming, which rely on local government facilities and where budgets have been slashed in recent years.
Yeah.
I'm very disappointed by these numbers, says Tracy Couch,
Right.
the sports minister. What's it got to do with the government, how much people want to run and swim?
Name, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's a bit of an unfortunate name for a sports minister.
Tracy Crouch.
Oh, Crouch.
Yeah, not
Tracy
Couch. No, Crouch, you
well,
idiot.
Couch potato.
No, but the Crouch is isn't it a... Oh, God, knocked my... I was sort of demonstrating weightlifting then.
Yeah.
Knocked my headphones off. Isn't the Crouch a weightlifting?
Crouch? No, I don't think so. No, there's a snap and jerk or something, isn't there? I don't know about Crouch.
Yeah. What I was going to say was, isn't weightlifting the most ridiculous... It's not a sport, is it?
I don't think so.
Stupid
I mean,
thing.
lots of people do it as a kind of hobby because they bench press all sorts of weights. You know, that becomes one of the things that you say, you know, how much can you bench press? And you say, 3,000 kilos or something like that.
Absolutely ridiculous.
But no, I mean, the trouble with the Olympic legacy, right, is the only reason that this is even a subject of conversation is because when we spent so much money getting the London Olympics, in London, and then so much money in all the facilities, so much money on the new stadiums, all of that, the whole point of it was that the government said, we will have this fantastic legacy of fitness for the rest of time because people will get more interested in athletics, they'll get more interested in throwing a javelin, swimming, and of course that doesn't happen.
No, of course it doesn't.
People just get on with their lives.
I think some kid watching the Olympics says, "Oh, Daddy, I want to be a javelin thrower."
No, they don't.
And then goes into the garden, picks up a javelin, chucks it over the fence into next door's garden and kills somebody.
And impales the next door neighbour.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
that's right. Yeah,
but that's the point. The only reason we think there should be an Olympic legacy is because we were told by the politicians that there would be one.
Yeah, it'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
Let's all have an Olympic legacy.
Now, here's one for you, right? Here's one for you. The old story that I like in the Telegraph this morning. Marriage has long been said to be good for your health. Now, however, a study has suggested that while married men are healthier than their single counterparts, women hardly benefit at all from tying the knot.
Yeah, well, I could have told you that.
So, well, no, but I mean, men apparently generally are better looked after, shall we say, or they look after themselves better when they're married. But women, actually, it makes no difference to at all.
Well, I mean,
this might lead you to believe that your spinster friend, Katie Bollock, as you described her book last week,
that is her name.
Is indeed correct.
Yeah, but you see, I know about this because why won't women admit, or even men admit, that there is still an element of slavery in marriage? A woman is
only
still
in your kind of marriage.
No, a woman is still expected in any marriage to do a lot more of the domestic side of affairs at home than a man, without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, I suppose you might be
without
right.
a shadow of a doubt. I've got mates, literally, not these days.
You haven't got any mates.
Yes, I have.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have.
You told me you haven't got any mates.
I've got friends.
No,
I've got friends. But certainly when we were all reporters in Fleet Street and all that, who insisted after a hard day's work they go home and the wives have to cook the dinner and all that. But often the wife had a full-time job.
Yeah.
But take something like Don Mackay, right, our old friend from Fleet Street, one of Fleet Street's biggest drinkers, right?
Why are you giving his name out?
Well, because he is. We all know it. This is a man who sometimes never made it home after a late shift and actually slept at Stratchwood Services in the car park in the boot of his own car.
I'm not sure
because the guy was such a drunk.
I'm not sure that we can stand that one up.
Yeah, well, it is alleged. It is alleged.
Yeah.
And he married a woman who was a Coronation Street actress for a while, right? Yeah. And yet...
In fact, his wedding was reported in Hello magazine.
It was, yeah. And yet when a mutual friend of ours went to stay with him in Northamptonshire, I don't know why he lived in Northamptonshire.
He didn't live in Northamptonshire.
No, he did. Lived up there somewhere. He did.
No, he didn't.
He did.
He lived in London.
No. The time that I'm talking about, he lived in Northamptonshire.
Okay.
And he went to stay with him.
Confuse you with somebody else.
And the day went like this. He got up and Don told his wife to get the breakfast on the table because the pub was open at 11 o'clock. They went to the pub from 11 till 4 in the afternoon. Came home and Don said, "Can you get the dinner on the table? We're going out tonight." They had dinner between sort of 4:30 and 6 o'clock. Then they went out. Didn't take the wife with them, by the way. And when they got in at 11 o'clock, Don said, "Can we have a sandwich? We're hungry. We've been in the pub all night, and it's thirsty.
He's not the kind of guy that I would say was perhaps the most enlightened of individuals.
And on each occasion, when they came back from the breakfast trip and the lunch trip, and he said to his wife, "I want a clean shirt. Where's my clean shirt? Don't expect me to go out in this again, do you? It's got curry stains all over it from the takeaway that I brought you."
Yeah, but you see, that's the point. He's not exactly necessarily indicative of every single marriage, and that's not.
Well, I think it's fairly typical of the 80s. That.
Yeah. Well, it might well have been, but it's now 2015. You might as well talk about the Victorians. Anyway, have you seen the time? Because it's very, very late.
I've seen the time, but you're wobbling on.
We're out of it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Now, thank you very much indeed, Mr. Parry. Another fantastic week. Mr. Parry and I will return, of course, on Monday evening when it will be time for winners and losers. Although we may have to come up with something else because you're not happy about that competition. You keep losing either way.
Thing is, you are far far too much control over this programme on the basis that you think that because you're here before me, you own this territory. Well, and tell you, pal, the takeover bid in the offing.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah, get lost. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics.
Look at the light!
Don't forget to follow the Two Mics at the Two Mics on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mics TV.
Guess what I'm going to get my sister this year?
What?
I'm going to buy her a red telephone box for her back garden.
A red telephone box?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. It's a piece of British heritage.
Has it got a phone in it?
No, of course not. Well, don't be ridiculous. Of course I've got a phone in it. Why would
you give somebody a phone box without a phone in it?
Because I've told you it's a piece of British heritage. Tom Jones has got one in his back garden in California. Sweaty people are not good people.
If you love the Two Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.